Chapter 1603. Li Xian had long since seen through the nature of the problem. In the end, this was One Eye's own choice, and as an outsider he couldn't be bothered to interfere. One Eye was a smart man. Although it looked like he had taken control of the entire Jiugong family, it was actually an attempted crime, and no one had died. His sentence probably wouldn't be a death sentence. Perhaps it would be a long one. But even if it was a long one, he probably wouldn't have the chance to be locked up with the Mahjong trio. The Mahjong trio actually didn't have anything to do with Li Xian, but since he knew so much, it was naturally Wang Ling who had passed on some of the more basic information to him. He was well aware that he was just a tool to Wang Ling, and would inevitably have to run errands for him in the future. But Li Xian didn't care about this position. Especially after clearly recognizing the gap between him and Wang Ling, he felt that working under Wang Ling wasn't a bad choice. He could just treat it as cultivation. After smoking his second cigarette on the balcony, he saw Hideshi Jiugong sitting in his wheelchair, looking downtrodden. For some reason, he suddenly felt the atmosphere a little sad. "Mr. Li, may I ask a question?" Hideshi Jiugong asked. "Go ahead." "Why didn't you tell my father the truth?" "Because it was eldest Miss Jiugong's idea." "Her." Hideshi Jiugong had an incredulous expression on his face. "Miss Jiugong Ryoko knows very well what you're thinking, but she doesn't want to argue." "But why?" Hideshi Jiugong lowered his head. "She clearly hates me the most. I'm a cripple and I don't contribute anything to the Jiugong family." "But you're still her brother," Li Xian said. "Do you remember the candy apple you bought for her when she took you to the temple fair in her wheelchair? That alone is enough." These short sentences had already triggered Hideshi Jiugong's thoughts. Hideshi Jiugong didn't know what on earth was wrong with him, but his tears fell like pearls from a broken necklace. "Your leg healed a long time ago, right? No matter how many things you did to Miss Ryoko in the past, since she chose to forgive you. As outsiders, I naturally have no right to say anything," Li Xian said softly. He patted Jiugong Zaiwashi's shoulder and said, "A man's leg can be broken, but not forever. Even if you did something wrong, it's not shameful to stand up and take responsibility." Having said that, Li Xian returned to the banquet hall alone. He felt that his mission this time was quite successful. Wang Ling had adopted a mission point system for all the ancient experts in the corpse burial picture, including Li Xian and Zhang Zidong. Every time they completed a mission, they would receive a corresponding amount of points as a reward. Once they had accumulated enough points, they would be able to rebuild their bodies and regain their freedom. It was a fair trade. To Li Xian and the other ancient experts, points were money. Li Xian admitted that he had never acted as a spiritual mentor after a fight. But since he had accepted the task, he naturally had to do it well. It was about making money. It wasn't shabby. At the same time, Wang Ling officially won the Sun Island High School ranking competition behind closed doors as King Lang. Even Wang Ling hadn't expected this. The main thing was that Wang Ling himself hadn't made a move at all. Every opponent he had encountered had claimed to be a member of the Grey Church and a fan of his. It was supposed to be a good match, but he was unexpectedly gifted to first place. The most outrageous thing was that at the beginning, these people had even put on an act. Later, as they put on an act, even the referees at the scene said they were fans of the Grey Church, and the judging mechanism had been changed. Thus, no matter how fake the performance of the match was, it wouldn't be judged as fixed. In front of him, all the opponents Wang Ling had encountered had fallen like dominoes. When the 1 million Sun Island dollars from the competition had been transferred into Wang Ling's digital wallet, Wang Ling still hadn't reacted. He had never had such an easy match before. He had gotten the money, and he hadn't been in the limelight. He hadn't violated the old Wang family's rule of keeping a low profile. And that wasn't all. Through this round of closed-doors competition, the Grey Church's rules on Sun Island seemed to be expanding further. In the 9 Paths and the Office of Academic Affairs, Yuki Junshin's plan to find fault in the closed-doors competition collapsed with the public defection of some of the students, teachers and coaches. Until now, he still hadn't figured out what on earth had happened. At the same time, the foreign gentleman sitting next to him, Holland, had an extremely unsightly expression on his face after receiving a call. Because just a minute ago, the educational investment financial institution they were in had actually been bought out. Furthermore, the Nine Paths and family had offered a price that the major shareholders couldn't refuse, and the acquisition had been realized. This meant that the Nine Paths and high school's actual control had now returned to the Jeogong family. That's impossible. Yuki Junshan immediately roared when he heard the news. He couldn't accept this fact. As a purebred shepherd dog, he had already invested all his savings and efforts into Holland's foreign educational institution, all for the sake of realizing his true ambition one day, which was to become the headmaster of Nine Paths and high school. To completely control Nine Paths and high school. But now the actual controlling stake had been subverted in a short period of time. This was something that Yuki Junshan could never have imagined. Who the hell did this? Yuki Junshan grabbed Holland's collar in exasperation. Mr. Yuki, calm down. Holland also had a helpless expression on his face. This is the doing of the Jeogong family's Jeogong Akiji. In fact, even if Holland didn't say it, Yuki Junshan would have already guessed it. In the Jeogong family, who else could amass so much money in such a short period of time and swallow up other businesses like a big fish devouring a small fish? Akiji. It's him. Yuki Junshan suddenly felt as if his body had lost its strength. He only felt unsteady. Akiji. I thought he didn't think highly of education. Why would he suddenly want to become a headmaster? Let me tell you a scary story, Mr. Yuki Junshan. What is it? At this moment, Holland quietly said, I heard that Mr. Akiji has also become a member of the Grey Church. Ha! Yuki Junshan was confused. Holland. Let me tell you another scary story, Mr. Holland. Yuki Junshan. Question mark. Holland. Actually me too, Yuki Junshan. Chapter 1604. A grand celebration was held in the treehouse of Kyudaiwa High School for the first student of Sun Island, Queen Lang. It used to be a place for the students of Class S to show off their superiority. But now, as the Grey Church expanded, Kyudaiwa still maintained the grading system on the surface. But in fact, the discrimination in all aspects had greatly decreased. The students of Class S who used to look down on others had also become humble. At least, when they saw the students of the lower classes, most of them would no longer act high and mighty. Even in the corners of the school, the students of Class S could be seen teaching the students of the lower classes in public in harmony. The school was equal. It was the trend of the times. Currently, Leek Sasaki had applied for the abolition of the grading system in the name of the Grey Church's branch minister. He believed that he would get a response soon. As for those who liked to bully others, after the Q family regained control of Kyudaiwa High School, they would not tolerate such problems easily. The next morning, which was Monday, December 21st, Wamaki Kyusan was prosecuted by the Sun Island police and prosecutors for abuse of power and bribery. When he left Kyudaiwa High School in handcuffs, he looked a little depressed as he stood at the school gate. But no one had the slightest sympathy for Wamaki Kyusan. He had gone crazy. His eyes were bloodshot, and his mental state had become very unstable. Everyone could tell that he was from the Grey Church. Are you from the Grey Church? You must be from the Grey Church too. You're all in this together. Liar. Liar. Wamaki Kyusan screamed hysterically. His body twisted madly, but he was tightly restrained by the police's grand grappling hand. Because they were worried that his resistance might injure the suspect during the transport, the police had no choice but to use a tranquilizer spell on him. When he was sent to the car, the captain of the local police station in charge of the case, Ichiro, smiled coldly. Tranquilizer spell and sleeping black tea. This guy will definitely sleep for dozens of hours. His mental state is very unstable. Is it really okay? Don't look at him like that. He's probably faking it. The psychiatrist came to examine him. He's very normal. The police captain, Ichiro, said, using mental illness to escape the punishment of the law won't work here. I hate this kind of person the most. I'll definitely give this guy a few more years. In fact, the psychiatrist was sent by the Jeogong family. Furthermore, the doctor joined the Grey Church under the request of the Kyuya family's master, Kyuya Akiji, so in the process of escorting Yuki Junshan. The Grey Church became the new topic of discussion among the accompanying policemen. Come to think of it, this Grey Church should only be a student literary organization, right? Why is he so powerful? A police officer asked. He was not a child. But there were really a lot of question marks. A student literature club actually had the support of the Battle sect, the Huagua Water Curtain Group, the Jiogong family, and the first-rate sects of various countries. These were all sects and consortiums that were renowned throughout the world. It was unbelievable that he would help a small literary club in the dark. Don't think too much about it. It's just a coincidence, Ichiro said. He looked like he didn't care at all. In fact, this was the result of his superior's advice. The Grey Church adhered to the principle of keeping a low profile, so the leaders of all departments had specially instructed that they weren't allowed to discuss the Grey Church internally or externally. Just this point alone was enough for Officer Ichiro to know that this was something that he should not have known. So for his own good and for his subordinates' sake, since his superiors had asked them to pretend they didn't know, he would obey this order. Thus, no matter who it was in the team, as long as someone mentioned the Grey Church, Ichiro would put on an indifferent expression. "Captain, do you want to join the Grey Church?" someone asked at that moment. "What's so good about joining a student organization? How many years has it been since we graduated? Will anyone really join the Grey Church?" "That can't be right." Ichiro chuckled and scoffed. Meanwhile, elsewhere, in Jiudao High School's student office, Sparrow was entering a new list of Grey Church members into the computer. She tapped on the keyboard and typed in the first name, Ichiro in green shirt. Number 60 High's group returned home at 8 o'clock that evening. They took the Jiogong family's express flight and used the Jiogong family's private immortal boat. The Jiogong family's matter had been perfectly resolved, and Wang Ling had also received the reward for buying little girl Nwan a present. There didn't seem to be any more regrets. According to his itinerary, Wang Ling would be able to return to the Wang family's small villa with the present that night. Thanks to Chive Sasaki's meticulous arrangements, Wang Ling was able to isolate himself from the fanatical Grey Church disciples outside in a separate room inside the wooden hut. Lotus Sun was giving a thank you speech outside, and the bursts of applause and laughter suddenly gave Wang Ling a special sense of security. He was grateful to the girl in his heart. If she hadn't been here, he really wouldn't have known how he would have dealt with this situation. "Lang-san, will I have a chance to see you again in the future?" Compared with the joyous atmosphere outside, Chive Sasaki, who was already very familiar with Wang Ling inside the wooden hut, had a very sad expression on his face. He was reluctant to part with Wang Ling. Although he hadn't spent much time with him, he felt that he had already been completely conquered by Wang Ling. In fact, Wang Ling had seen how busy Chive Sasaki had been these 2 days. And most importantly, he was really thoughtful, and had thought of almost everything. He could also be considered the first foreign friend Wang Ling had made. Wang Ling naturally treasured him very much. "I will," Wang Ling replied. He didn't know what to say to express his gratitude, so he gave Chive Sasaki an enchanted number 60 high school uniform. The weather on Sun Island was hot, and there was no need to enchant long johns, so Wang Ling thought it would be more practical to give him a school uniform. Furthermore, this uniform was different from the ones he had enchanted at the beginning. It was a brand new upgrade. This number 60 high school uniform had been enchanted with Wang Ling version 3.0 and was extremely strong. It would be fine even if it was transported into space. Wang Ling was currently wearing the same uniform. This was also the main reason why Wang Ling's uniform had remained intact in all kinds of space battles. If it had been anyone else, their clothes would have long since been torn to shreds. "Ah, that's right. Lang-san. I also have a present for you." Chive Sasaki wiped his tears and gave Wang Ling the present he had prepared. There were 2 things in total. One of them was a pink one-piece baby's pajamas with a very cute picture of a little bear on it. The other was Sun Island's limited edition Sun Crispy Noodle Snacks. It was said that this crispy noodle snack was made in a very special way and was baked in the sun. It smelled of nature. Wang Ling looked at these 2 things. Of course, the main thing was the second one. Wang Ling suddenly felt that his gift of the number 60 high school uniform was a little light. Chapter 1605. The happiest person was naturally Kyuko Ryoko, who had been waiting for news in faraway Huashio Nation. These days, Kwamiya Ryoko has been paying close attention to the movements of the Kwamiya family. She had expected some twists and turns. Unexpectedly, everything was handled in an unusually harmonious manner. Most importantly, the Grey Church had actually become popular on Sun Island. Even though it didn't have much influence on the surface, Kamiya Ryoko felt that it was a little outrageous to be able to attract her father to join a literary exchange fan club specially set up for Wang Ling. It could only be said that Lotus Sun was worthy of being the opponent she had always respected. This time, everything she had asked Lotus Sun to do was done beautifully, and she handed in an answer sheet that was close to full marks. However, Ryoko Kamiya felt that this matter was not as simple as it seemed. "What's wrong? You look absent-minded." Ajwa put some food in Kamiya Ryoko's bowl. When there was a contrast in emotions, it was actually very obvious. Ajwa was very happy, because his master was coming back. Zhou was also in a good mood, because his legs were already in a state of growth. After being planted on the broken leg, a toe had already grown out. Now that Zhou's legs were covered by an insulating glass cover, he felt like he was taking care of 2 pots of flowers. However, it was different from the usual watering method. Apart from keeping warm, Zhou also needed to ingest a large amount of nutrients to ensure the smooth growth of the flesh at the amputated part of his leg. Seeing that Ryoko Kyuya wasn't saying anything, Ajwa simply guessed what the girl was thinking. After living together for so long, Ajwa felt that they still had this level of tacit understanding. "If you want to thank classmate Lotus Sun, I actually have a pretty good suggestion." Ajwa suddenly smiled. Of course, other than this reason, he also thought of something else. But at this critical juncture, he couldn't bring it up on his own initiative. From the perspective of learning routines, Ajwa felt, after such a long time, tonight was the best time for a showdown. "Who wants to thank her?" The girl's face instantly turned red. Ryoko Kamiya felt that the man's eyes were terrifyingly accurate. It was as if he knew some kind of mind-reading spell. He was always able to hit her where it hurt. But Ajwa didn't have that ability. The main problem was that the girl herself had revealed a flaw. For example, when Ajwa had gone online in the morning, he had seen the following search results in the search engine. What does the young mistress of Huagua Water Curtain Group like? What does Lotus Sun like to eat? What hobbies does Lotus Sun of Huagua Water Curtain Group have? Yes. Ryoko Kamiya was a newbie on the internet. She usually didn't know how to search for similar things. She would ask her female assistants to search for it, and then tell her in turn. But now that she had been staying at Ajwa's place for the past few days, it wasn't appropriate for her to ask him directly, so she wanted to do it herself. In the end, she didn't even know to delete the search history. This is a deal. Equivalent trade. Helpless, Ryoko Kamiya could only confess. But the truth was that the girl clearly looked a little guilty when she said this, because she was hiding something else from him. The two of them interacted and lived together. On the surface, it was the relationship between employer and bodyguard. However, in the eyes of outsiders, they were already a couple. At least when Zhou stayed with them for the past few days, he always called her sister-in-law. Ryoko Kamiya had thought that he would mind. On the surface, she scolded Zhou not to say anything else, but in her heart, she didn't dislike this form of address. She wasn't a fool. She had told Ajwa that it was the relationship between employer and bodyguard, but how could an employer directly live in a bodyguard's house? Although Ryoko Kamiya hadn't said anything about this relationship, it was clear from her actions that she had already acknowledged Ajwa. Now that the matter with the Kamiya family had been resolved, Lotus Sun and the others were about to return to China. Order would return to normal. What gift to buy for Lotus Sun as a thank you gift was a headache for Ryoko. But the main reason was that she felt that once Order returned to normal, she would have to leave this place. Even when she had first stayed at Ajwa's place, Ryoko Kamiya had been uncomfortable in all sorts of ways, but now that she was about to leave, she realized that Ajwa had long since laid out an inescapable net to trap her. The dinner was tasteless. Zhou was smart. He had a vague feeling that something big was going to happen tonight, so he hid in his room after dinner and didn't say a word. Seeing this, Ajwa knew that the time was right. He took the initiative to knock on Ryoko Kamiya's door. The door wasn't tightly shut and was only slightly ajar. Ajwa knocked twice before it opened. When he entered, he saw that Ryoko was packing up her things in a storage bag. There were 2 faint traces of tears on her face and her eyes were red, as if she had just been crying. Ajwa didn't say anything. He just stepped forward, stretched out his arms, and hugged Ryoko tightly from behind. "Are you really leaving, Ryoko?" His voice was so soft that only the 2 of them could hear it. From the moment Ajwa entered the door, from the moment he said those words, Ryoko Kamiya felt that the last line of defense in her heart had been breached. Her legs were a little weak and the storage bag in her hand directly fell to the ground. Wiping away her tears, she said, "I've always said that you're a liar. Actually, I'm the liar. There will always be times when a person lies in life. 1 or 2 lies are very normal. Besides, even if Ryoko lies, it must be a kind lie." Ajwa laughed and buried his face in the girl's shoulder as he spoke softly. But this lie of mine, it's not kind." Ryoko Kamiya suddenly pushed Ajwa away, straightened her flat upper body slightly, and pressed her head against Ajwa's chest. Ajwa felt his body temperature rise sharply, and he instantly exploded. It was rare for the girl to take the initiative, which made him burst with joy. "I also have something I'm hiding from you. How about this, you tell me one and I'll tell you one, let's trade," Ajwa said. Ryoko Kamiya looked at Ajwa's eyes and could no longer suppress the guilt of telling a lie. She stared at Ajwa and plucked up her courage to say, "Ajwa, actually, I'm not 16. I'm older than classmate Lotus-san. I'm 20 this year." Ajwa nodded, his expression as calm as an ancient well. This had always been Ryoko Kamiya's biggest secret. At least in her own eyes, it was a secret. But Ajwa didn't care at all, because this meant that he and Ryoko Kamiya could date normally, and he wouldn't have to be accused of being a pervert who liked a 16-year-old girl. "Why, aren't you surprised at all?" Ryoko was very surprised by Ajwa's indifferent reaction. "I like you, what does age have to do with it? Even if you tell me you're a 200-year-old witch, I won't mind." Ajwa hugged the girl tighter as he spoke. "Who's a witch?" Ryoko Kamiya bit Ajwa's shoulder with tears in her eyes. Ajwa didn't make a sound. After a few seconds he asked, "Feeling better?" Then in exchange, I'll also tell you something I've been hiding from you." At that moment Ajwa said, "Do you remember the first time you came to number 60 high to look for me?" "Of course. I remember. I've liked you since then." Chapter 1606. The issue of age had always been a thorn in Jamiya Ryoko's heart, especially after she realized that she really liked Ajwa, which made her feel even more guilty. She had clearly been entrusted by her family to come to Huashio Nation and specifically investigate this old swindler, hoping to take advantage of this crackdown to expand the Jyogong family's market in Huashio Nation. In the end, because of Ajwa's age, Kamiya Ryoko felt that she had no right to reprimand him. She was also a liar. Now that she had told him the truth, she felt much more at ease. The 2 of them cuddled in the bedroom for a while, both of them feeling a great sense of satisfaction. Since they had already laid all their cards on the table, Ryoko Kamiya didn't put up a front anymore. She let go of her guard and let Ajwa hug her. Previously, when Ajwa had carried her, Ryoko Kamiya had complained that it was too hot. But he didn't say a single word. "Do you want to continue playing?" After a while, Kamiya Ryoko suddenly said, "A game of exchanging secrets." Ajwa replied calmly, "All right." The girl had thought that Ajwa would refuse, but hadn't expected him to be so straightforward. "You first or I first?" Ajwa laughed and deliberately moved his face very close with the air of a hooligan. "Then I'll go first. My secret is that I actually have a master." "You really have a master?" Ryoko was shocked. There had always been a rumor that Ajwa had a shifu, and many people even said that he had relied on this shifu to help him become a war hero 6 years ago. But until now, no one had seen Shifu's true appearance. A lot of people imagined Ajwa's shifu to be a sage-like old Taoist priest, and a variety show even launched a long-term follow-up investigation into this matter. However, The investigation found that Audjua's work route was actually very stable. Apart from going to the general administration of 100 schools, his own apartment, and going to some schools for business reasons, he didn't do anything else out of the ordinary. What sage-like old Taoist priest? Not even a strand of hair of this legendary master could be seen. Most of the people around Audjua were students who surrounded him for autographs. All of them wore oversized school uniforms and had fluffy hair. Their faces were full of collagen and childishness. They didn't look like Shifu Zhuo at all. Then many people turned their attention to the principals of some schools. For example, number 60 High's headmaster Chun had once been suspected of being Audjua's Shifu. However, after these principals were suspected, they all went to the media to clarify their suspicions. They even made oaths in front of a national audience. No one would joke about it. It said that your master is a sage-like old Taoist. That shouldn't be the case, right? Ryoko Kamiya asked. Audjua gently pinched Kamiya Ryoko's nose. We agreed that each of you would say one. He couldn't pursue the matter. It's your turn. Kamiya Ryoko showed a helpless expression. She sighed and said, All right, then I'll tell you a secret. Actually, my puberty is a little delayed. Audjua swept a glance over Kamiya Ryoko's flat airport runway, his expression as calm as an ancient well. He had seen it from the beginning. But the problem was that he felt that this was all in the open. Ryoko, you're too cunning. How can this be considered a secret? Of course. How can it not be? Kamiya Ryoko struggled to say, If I say my puberty is delayed, that means it's not like there's no possibility of me growing up in the future. Audjua was rendered speechless by her retort. He didn't say anything, and just hugged Kamiya Ryoko. Of course, when you liked someone, you liked everything about them. Forget the fact that Kamiya Ryoko was a flat airport runway right now. Even if it was the Mariana Trench, he would still like her. Furthermore, Audjua didn't have a good impression of girls who were especially well-developed to begin with, and preferred flat ones to be cute. Ryoko, I don't mind this at all. He hugged the girl tightly. This series of confessions had a strong impact, and Kamiya Ryoko's mind went blank. She felt that this might be Audjua's unique charisma. He was a bold person who would make a move when he had to, and without the slightest bit of hesitation. Kamiya Ryoko had always had doubts about the world 6 years ago. Audjua was just a golden core cultivator, so why had he charged to the forefront so bravely? Now, after getting to know Audjua, Kamiya Ryoko began to understand a little. This was a man who, once he set his mind on something, would do it without hesitation. I'm done. You're the most cunning person. Kamiya Ryoko fanned her flushed cheeks, then looked at Audjua and asked, I have one last question. You want to ask about classmate Lotus Sun, right? That's right. I don't even know how to thank her. It was all thanks to her that our Kamiya family's matter was resolved smoothly this time, said Kamiya Ryoko. After this incident, the conflict between her and Kamiya Hideshi had completely come to an end. As for the sixth madam who had been possessed by a ghost, she was now in the process of removing the ghost from her body. Your father actually didn't separate from her? After so many years, he still has feelings for her. Also, the Star Pluckers have some influence on Sun Island. For the sake of stabilizing the situation, even if my father has this idea, he can't make it public for the time being. I see. Audjua rubbed his chin. In fact, he was also trying to figure out his future father-in-law's preferences in a roundabout way. Judging from the time they had spent together, Kukya Akiji seemed to be a man of affection and righteousness. Although he had 6 wives, at least he was able to shoulder this burden evenly, and a bowl of water could also be carried evenly. Furthermore, he indeed cared about each and every one of his family members. As long as he could show some sincerity in the future, he didn't think it would be a big problem. He realized that he liked Kamiya Ryoko more than he had imagined, especially now that he was holding her. He felt like he owned the whole world. Monday, December 21st. Number 60 High's party returned to Huaxiao Nation without a hitch. On this trip, Wang Ming had collected a bunch of new clues about talismans, as well as new data that he had deduced. As soon as he landed, he and Jai-in hurried to the lab, and he had follow-up plans. He was also going to meet that civilian scientist Shouchong. As for Audjua, As soon as Wang Ling landed, he went straight to the airport to pick him up. Receiving a Shifu was what a disciple should do. Of course, he also had some selfish motives, and that was the problem with Zhou Ziyi. Shifu, do you want a grand disciple? The kind who can be a tool and make crispy noodle snacks? Ajwa asked nervously as he gripped the steering wheel in the car. Chapter 1607. Actually, he had never thought about having another grand disciple. But he knew that Ajwa's career was developing like a raging fire. More and more people admired Ajwa. And when Ajwa's own light was enough to illuminate the world, this kind of thing was actually unavoidable. Wang Ling had heard about Zhou Ziyi when he was on Sun Island. This was a condition to rope in the teacher named Zhou Xiang. The fat that Wang Ling had rubbed off from his body all those years ago was in fact all-purpose material for shaping the body. Just a little bit of it could be used to reattach a broken limb, or even create a new body. After that, he helped Li Xian, Zhang Ziden, and the others build their bodies. He planned to make use of this fat waste he had rubbed off from his body in the past. Since he could even reconstruct the bodies of ancient experts, reattaching a broken leg was as easy as lifting a finger for Wang Ling. But after careful consideration, Ajwa hadn't asked Wang Ling to do it, and had instead asked Wang Zhen and Lu Qingyi to find out how to plant the leg. The leg technique from the domain of the gods had about the same effect as Wang Ling's, except that it lacked in speed and strength. If the planted leg was reattached with the fat from Wang Ling's body, if this pair of legs were normal, it would be a pair of invincible diamond legs. Although the method of the god domain was a little slow and inferior, it was still the idea of a few Tao gods. If it really matured, it would not be bad. Moreover, it would surpass most cultivators on earth. Back then, when Wang Ling had heard about how Ajwa had helped Zhou Ziyi, he had felt that Ajwa was especially concerned about this teenager with a broken leg. At that time, Wang Ling had vaguely sensed some signs. It was just that he hadn't expected Ajwa to bring up the matter of accepting a disciple so quickly. Moreover, it was his first day back in the country. Wang Ling cupped his chin as he pondered carefully. In fact, he was also considering the feasibility of this idea. Classmate Zhou Ziyi, what do you think of Senior Ajwa after meeting him? Lotus Sun hurriedly asked in the car when she saw that Wang Ling had fallen silent. Ajwa had said that he was taking her in as his disciple, and had no intention of avoiding her at all. In fact, he had wanted her to put in a good word for him. The young lady also received this signal, which was why she chose to speak at this moment. He's a very clever man. Very much like me when I was young, Ajwa commented. He particularly liked Zhou Ziyi's quick reaction. Of course, what he liked the most was still Zhou Ziyi's positive and optimistic attitude. Ever since he had started working and even been given the halo of a hero, Ajwa had always felt that life had smoothed out his edges and corners. However, he felt a little bit of his younger self in Zhou Ziyi. Thus, he had this thought in his mind at that time. Wang Ling could tell that this wasn't a lie. The question and answer exchange between Lotus Sun and Ajwa felt a little like a crosstalk performance. But Ajwa's answer was very sincere. But Ajwa knew that this was actually a little sudden, so after expressing his opinion, he laughed it off. Shifu, I'm just asking for your opinion first. It's fine if you don't think it's okay. Thus, his tone of speaking to Wang Ling suddenly became respectful, which made Wang Ling a little uncomfortable. It's indeed a bit sudden. But I think if we keep Ziyi by our side, and push him out to be a genius youth and nurture him, it'll be a great success. At that time, everyone's attention will be focused on Ziyi. It's also a very good cover for you, Master. Wang Ling nodded silently in his heart. This was true. He had heard before that Zhou Ziyi's cultivation talent was actually pretty good, and that even with a broken leg, he could still keep up with the standard of a normal earth cultivator at his age. If his leg hadn't been broken, his basic talent should have been about the same as Lotus Sun's. But to be cautious, Wang Ling didn't agree straight away. He still decided to observe him for a while longer before making a decision. When Wang Ling got home, it was already past 9 o'clock in the evening. As soon as he entered the door, he felt a soft glutinous rice ball hug his leg, and then climb up skillfully until it was at his shoulder. Only then did she stop and lie down on his body. Then, she rubbed that fair, tender and milky little face against his cheek like a little kitten. This kind of intimate contact had always been a big taboo for Wang Ling. But the strange thing was that when Wang Nuan approached him like this, Wang Ling didn't feel the slightest urge to push this little girl away. It was to the extent that Wang Ling began to have this thought. He thought his little sister was too cute. It was so good to have a little sister. Wang Ling couldn't deny that this was most likely due to the power of their blood relationship. Of course, there was an even more important point. Although little girl Nuan had just been born, but he and his little sister had already fought side by side. At that time, Nuan's shadow had also been lying on his shoulder like this. Wang Ling thought that it might have been from that time that Nuan had developed some kind of dependence on him. Father and Mother Wang were holding all kinds of toys in their left and right hands, and looked like they were about to put the little girl to sleep. Both of them had been tortured badly, and their hair was disheveled. Now that Wang Nuan had suddenly calmed down, Father and Mother Wang breathed a sigh of relief, but at the same time, they were amazed. That's strange. Ling Ling, have you already met Nuan? She seems to be very dependent on you. Mother Wang couldn't help covering her mouth as she laughed. Before Wang Ling had come home, what the couple had been most worried about was whether brother and sister could get along peacefully. Now that they saw this heartwarming scene, Father and Mother Wang instantly knew that they had been overthinking things. As soon as they entered, the little girl, who had been making a fuss earlier, suddenly crawled over like a cat sniffing out fish. Then she lay on Wang Ling's shoulder, closed her eyes, and fell into a deep sleep. Father and Mother Wang were deeply moved by this scene. They couldn't help taking out their phones to snap pictures of the warm scene of brother and sister getting along harmoniously from all angles. Hey, honey, little girl Nuan can only fall asleep on Ling Ling's shoulder now. What should we do? Ling Ling still has to go to school. After taking pictures, Father Wang couldn't help feeling a little worried. After all, Nuan was still growing up. If she could only fall asleep on Wang Ling's shoulder, it would indeed be bad for her growth and development. How about we take Nuan with Ling Ling when he goes to school? Mother Wang suddenly suggested. Father Wang clapped his hands and called her a professional. Great. I think it's doable. It'll be like preschool. Wang Ling. Chapter 1608. Father and Mother Wang's idea wasn't just for show, it was for real. When Wang Ling realized that Nuan would really go to school with him tomorrow, he couldn't help feeling a little flustered. Of course, Nuan's real body wouldn't go with Wang Ling, but a shadow would lie on Wang Ling's shoulder, just like when they had fought side by side in the Supreme World. What the shadow heard, what it learned, and what it sensed could all be transmitted back to the real body at the same time. Furthermore, cultivators with lower realms, that was the students and alumni of number 60 high school, they couldn't see Nuan. Don't worry, Ling Ling, your dad and I will watch Nuan's real body. You don't have to worry about Nuan peeing on you. Before going to bed, Mother Wang explained the situation to Wang Ling in all seriousness. Hearing this, Wang Ling was stunned. What he was worried about, it wasn't his little sister peeing and pooping. He did have a talisman on him, but the problem was that Nuan didn't. Even if it was a shadow, it was still very scary. Who the hell would go to school with a nuclear bomb on their back? Wang Ling dropped his forehead into his hand. It felt like his head was hurting. But Father and Mother Wang were exceptionally firm on this matter, and he himself felt exceptionally helpless. Thus, he could only ask Wang Ming for help. Wang Ming had already returned to his lab. Wang Ling remembered that there were backup talisman seals in the lab, which were stronger than one-time use ones. But Wang Ling couldn't guarantee their compatibility. Although he and Nuan were brother and sister, they were different models. Wang Ling didn't know whether the talisman seal would work on Nuan. Wang Ming also seemed particularly curious about this. Alright, you've reminded me, Lingzi. Earlier, I thought we should also do a talisman experiment on little girl Nuan. Why don't we take this opportunity to test it out? Also, it'll help me push forward with subsequent research on new talismans. It can be considered reference data. Wang Ming said excitedly. When he had returned to the country earlier, he had remembered that there was something he hadn't done. Now that Wang Ling had asked him, he suddenly remembered. Ah, that's right. There are 2 experiments this time. How about we do them together? Wang Ming said at that moment. After I returned to the laboratory, I extracted a substance from the mysterious black stone and diluted it into a black spirit liquid. This spiritual liquid has a very strong suppressive effect. Dripping it on a magic tool can cause it to have a sealing effect for a short time. It's a pity that I've damaged more than a dozen sacred tools. Wang Ming said. Didn't you enchant the golden pacifier that you wanted to give to Anwan? I don't think it will be damaged by this black spirit liquid. Why don't you ask Anwan to cooperate with us and conduct an experiment on this black liquid? I want to see how far you can suppress it. Wang, safe. Of course it's safe. Don't you believe in the things your brother invented? Wang Ming folded his arms and said solemnly, the worst case scenario is that the earth explodes. You can always switch it back after the explosion. Wang Ling. When all was said and done, Wang Ling wasn't a demon. There was no way he would use his own little sister as a lab rat. The stability of the black spirit liquid extracted from the black stone was unknown at the moment. If it was too strong, it might cause some discomfort, which would have the opposite effect. For example, when Wang Ling had first worn the talisman seal, the original version had given him a very uncomfortable feeling. In the end, spirit power had accumulated in his body and directly torn the seal apart, causing a massive global blackout as well as damage to electrical appliances in the core region. Wang Ling had still been young at that time. Fortunately, it had only been a blackout and some electrical appliances that had been damaged. So the most heart-wrenching were the programmers pulling at their hair in front of their computer screens. After painstakingly inventing programs for so long, in the end, the screen went black and there was nothing left. Thus, Wang Ling decided to try the black spirit liquid himself. If there were no adverse reactions, he would help Anwan put some on the golden pacifier. He had chosen this pacifier as a gift for Anwan on Sun Island. It hadn't been golden at first, but pink gold. It had a market value of 980,000 Sun Island dollars. Without even thinking about it, Wang Ling had paid for it. It was just that he hadn't expected the pink gold pacifier to turn golden after he enchanted it. It didn't look the least bit foreign, and even gave off the feeling of a local tycoon. He had thought that Anwan would hate it. In the end, the little girl didn't dislike it at all. Early in the morning on Tuesday, December 21st, a drone stopped at Wang Ling's window, and Wang Ming handed him the spare talisman seal from the lab, as well as the original black spirit liquid. There was only 5 milliliters of the original liquid in this bottle. It was contained in a special bottle, which looked like it was only a little bit. Touching it through the bottle, Wang Ling didn't feel anything special about the black spirit liquid at all. He took out a drop and put it on his enchanted number 60 middle school uniform jacket. In the blink of an eye, a circle of special black energy rippled out from the school uniform. This energy turned into threads and completely penetrated the school uniform jacket he was wearing without leaving any gaps. Wang Ling and Wang Nuan watched the whole process quietly. Biting the golden pacifier Wang Ling had given her, Wang Nuan lay on Wang Ling's shoulder with a pensive expression on her face. It looked like she was a little tired from the current situation. After a while, Wang Ling reached out to touch his school uniform jacket. He felt like he had been electrocuted, and his fingertips were numb, but he didn't feel any pain. Without hesitation, he directly put on his jacket as usual. After a few seconds, Wang Ling's body started to change. A pair of rabbit ears actually grew out of the top of his head and drooped down. Wang Nuan, who had been lying on Wang Ling's shoulder, was startled. But after she calmed down, the little girl very quickly and boldly reached out to touch Wang Ling's rabbit ears, and found that they were so soft that she could actually feel their bones. Was this an adverse reaction from the black spirit liquid? Wang Ling was puzzled. But very quickly, he dispelled the idea. How could there be an adverse reaction from an animal's ears? It was 100% Wang Ming that guy's doing. Just as he was about to send Wang Ming a text message to question him, Wang Ming seemed to have predicted this, and directly sent him a message first. Ah, that's right, Ling Ling. I'm working on an animal reagent, which can make the human body grow parts of an animal to make it look cute. I've always wanted to experiment with you. So I combined the reagent with the black spirit liquid. No matter what, don't take off your jacket. It's very important to ensure the experimental data. If you take it off, I'll have to do the experiment again next time. Wang Ling couldn't help sucking in a cold breath when he saw the text message. What was a devil? This was a real devil, using the development of a new Dao talisman as an excuse to do something to him. Wang Ling felt that he had to write this down in his little notebook, so that he could fight back one day. After returning from Sun Island, Wang Ling had felt that he was becoming more and more prominent, and now he had rabbit ears. If he went to school, he would be laughed at to death. The main point was that his little sister was lying on his shoulder watching him make a fool of himself. Feeling a little resentful, Wang Ling went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. In the end, he was surprised to find that this pair of droopy rabbit ears on his head was actually quite cute. Furthermore, they actually didn't look out of place when paired with him. It was more like he was wearing a hair clip cosplaying as an animal ear. But why rabbit ears? Was it because he often wore rabbit pajamas? At that moment, Wang Ling was extremely nervous. Especially when he appeared at the school gate like this, his heart was even more perturbed. Today, the person in charge of the school inspection at the school gate was the meticulous Teacher Pan. After more than a semester of interacting with Teacher Pan, Wang Ling had a deep understanding of her personality. Old Pan had always been an old-fashioned conservative and did not like her students to do fancy things. For example, boys had to have a crew cut like super chin, and even if they had bangs, it couldn't be too long, so that it would stand out with the word refreshing. For girls, Old Pan preferred ear-length short hair. It wasn't impossible for them to have long hair, but her requirement was that it shouldn't be loose, and a ponytail would be best. Now he had grown a rabbit ear to come to school. He wouldn't be able to take it off for a while, and Wang Ling felt that Old Pan would most likely scold him. Silently bowing at the school gate, Wang Ling lowered his head and moved forward, ready to pass with his little sister Meng on his shoulder. But at that moment, Old Pan's solemn voice suddenly came from behind him. Wang Ling, wait. Wang Ling immediately stopped in his tracks. If the ancient powerhouses in the picture of the corpse had seen this scene, they would definitely have sighed in their hearts. The immortal king, who had not long ago beaten the god of the grave, who had inherited the bloodline of outer god Sotheth, to the point of looking for his teeth all over the ground, would actually stop at the homeroom teacher's voice. Sure enough, the strongest humans in the universe are still the teachers in the school. Wang Ling, why do I feel like you're a little tall and low? Wang Ling and Wang Nuan. It was normal to have high and low shoulders, because little girl Nuan was lying on his right shoulder. Although it was just a shadow, it was really unusually heavy. Although the shadow shared half of Nuan's weight, it was still more than 40,000 jin. Seeing that Teacher Pan had called out to him, Wang Ling and Wang Nuan were startled. At that moment, Teacher Pan stretched out her hand. Nuan instantly became even more vigilant. In the end, Teacher Pan just walked over and tapped Wang Ling's back lightly. Don't hunch. Boys should walk with their backs straight to look spirited. Wang Ling nodded in agreement. Just as he was about to leave, Teacher Pan suddenly stopped him at that moment. Wait. What's with that thing on your head? As soon as she said this, Wang Ling immediately knew that it was all over. Being stopped and lectured in such a shameful manner at the school gate would definitely be the focus of number 60 High's attention today. Who would have thought that Old Pan, who had always been serious, would actually laugh in the next second? Wang Ling, not bad. Rabbit ears. What a fierce male rabbit. Wang Ling. She stretched out her hand to stroke Wang Ling's rabbit ears, and when she realized that they were real ears, she didn't blame him. Is it a temporary after effect of practicing some spell in secret? Since it was a real animal organ, Old Pan actually wouldn't blame him. It was just that Wang Ling hadn't expected Old Pan to actually think this way. She thought that he had practiced some other spell in secret, which had resulted in this after effect. Don't be nervous. This is just a temporary ear. It'll go away in a few hours. Old Pan couldn't help smiling. As a pioneer teacher at number 60 High, there had actually been a lot of similar things that had happened at the school in the past. Many body techniques and spells, inspired by spirit beasts, would cause intermittent after effects if they weren't cultivated properly, or if they were cultivated too deeply. In other words, they would grow an animal organ. Back then, Old Pan had seen a lot of examples of this in number 60 high, from both students and teachers. In modern cultivation schools, there was actually nothing strange about this. There were many aftereffects of spells. Sometimes, this kind of aftereffect of animalization was actually a little embellishment of cultivation life. It was much better than the ruler of some cultivation country wandering around without a mask, and thus being infected with a new virus, comical. As for the aftereffects of the new virus, no one knew. Perhaps it would result in a mental retardation attack, and they would have to inject disinfectant and bleach into their arms. Nowadays, even primary school students knew that this wasn't something they should do, but there were still people who actually tried it. This was the most outrageous. Back to business. In Old Pan's opinion, the aftereffects of animalization weren't a big deal. As long as Wang Ling didn't deliberately wear cosplay headgear, Old Pan wouldn't say a word. Of course. Now that Wang Ling had grown a pair of rabbit ears, Old Pan even thought that it wouldn't be bad if Wang Ling could keep them. After more than a semester, she had thoroughly grasped Wang Ling's taciturn personality. Such cute rabbit ears on Wang Ling's body were an indescribable contrast of cuteness. Pretty good. Before Wang Ling left, Old Pan had commented on Wang Ling's rabbit with a smile on his face, making Wang Ling's heart feel a little guilty. Looking at Wang Ling's back as he left, Old Pan couldn't help sighing with emotion. Sure enough, Wang Ling hadn't disappointed her. Generally speaking, most students who would take time out to study spells in private had something to pursue in their studies. During his time as a teacher in charge, Wang Ling's grades had always been above average. Even now, Old Pan was a little suspicious. Was this guy deliberately suppressing his grades? How could a person who studied so hard get an average score every time? It was too unrealistic. For a whole week, Wang Ling and Lotus Sun studied as exchange students on Sun Island. They didn't need to do homework or make up for it. Not only did they live in the best rooms and enjoy the best scenery, they had also won over a large group of Grey Church disciples. When they came back, the school even gave them extra scholarships. For some of the students who were still catching up on homework during the National Day holiday, Wang Ling's group's exchange activity was definitely a source of hatred. After not seeing each other for a long time, Wang Ling naturally became the new focus of attention when he returned to school. Lotus Sun had also taken this into consideration. She was worried that Wang Ling would be surrounded by a group of people as soon as he arrived at school, and might not be used to it, so she had come to school early to answer a lot of people's questions. Student Lotus Sun, I heard that someone from Sun Island's 9 Paths High School has already cultivated to the golden egg level? Is it very xenophobic? Are they friendly to us? I want to go on a trip next year. Is the food in 9 Paths H's canteen good? How does it compare with our number 60 high schools? Lotus Sun answered every question in great detail. As long as she gave a clear answer, a lot of people who had the answers naturally wouldn't harass Wang Ling anymore. Of course, there were also some gossips that Lotus Sun didn't know how to answer. Student Lotus Sun, is there a real octopus in the octopus ball on Sun Island? Student Lotus Sun, is Rimi Ishihara really married? Do I still have a chance? Lotus Sun could only smile at these questions. To begin with, she didn't pay much attention to these celebrity idols. After all, given Huagua Water Curtain Group's financial resources, there wasn't a single celebrity they couldn't invite. This wasn't strange to Lotus Sun at all. After all, her monthly allowance was more than 1 billion yuan. As long as she wanted to, it wouldn't be a problem for her to have a different celebrity come to the school to broadcast the noon broadcast every day. After answering everyone's questions as skillfully and easily as possible, Lotus Sun heaved a sigh of relief. There wouldn't be so many people harassing Wang Ling anymore. However, she did not expect something to happen. When she turned around to look at the back table, Wang Ling was still surrounded by a large group of people. The point was that they weren't here to ask questions, but to watch Wang Ling's rabbit ears. Watching this scene from a distance, Lotus Sun didn't know what on earth was going on with Wang Ling's rabbit ears, but she still blushed. She felt like Wang Ling was going to get to her head. She couldn't help roaring in her heart. In a split second, her restless maiden heart overflowed. This was too cute. The group of people surrounding Wang Ling also cried out from time to time. Ah, Ozzel. Too cute. They're real rabbit ears. Damn, Wang Ling, these rabbit ears don't go well with you. Is it really an after effect of cultivating magic? Are you sure you didn't use any medicine? You did it on purpose, didn't you? Superchin couldn't help reaching out to tug at them. The furry touch made him feel relaxed and happy. They really are cute, Hirogwa also praised. He felt that his family's soul pet shop should have a few more different kinds of rabbit spirit beasts. Originally, he hadn't been interested in rabbit spirit beasts. But after seeing Wang Ling, he suddenly felt that rabbits were very cute. Little bunnies could be raised too. Not just put them on the dining table. At that moment, everyone was actually thinking the same thing. It was said that young pig-headed youths didn't dream of bunny girls. They suddenly felt that it wouldn't be bad if Wang Ling could keep his rabbit ears. Wang Ling had thought that he would be completely swamped by people on his first day back at school, but the fact was that the crowd didn't even last the first class. Because the first class was Monk Jin Deng's class disguised as Teacher Fire. As soon as Jin Deng came out, he gave everyone a set of animalization spells. Since everyone was animalized, Wang Ling's rabbit ears naturally weren't an anomaly. This could be considered Jin Deng's way of smoothing things over for him. But in fact, it was Lotus Sun who had suggested this class to Jin Deng. On one hand, the girl didn't think it was good for Wang Ling to be constantly surrounded. On the other hand, when she saw some girls touch Wang Ling's rabbit ears, she felt extremely conflicted. Let them watch. Why did they even start touching him? All of them. Had they never seen rabbits in the zoo? Wasn't it just a pair of rabbit ears? Ah, I want to touch them too. With this thought in mind, Lotus Sun went completely crazy. In order to stop those girls from doing anything to Wang Ling again, she immediately thought of something, and entrusted Monk Jin Deng to teach such a lesson. Thus, after the animalization spells tutorial class, the whole of grade 1, class 3 completely turned into a zoo. Super Chun grew a pair of bull horns and a tail, which was very much in line with his style. It was as if Hirogwa had completely fused with his parrot Dopey, and the fur on his head had turned the color of a parrot. Lotus Sun's change was the greatest. Not only did she grow a pair of fluffy snow-white fox ears on top of her head, she actually had 9 fluffy tails behind her. Oh my god! It's a 9-tailed fox. So cute. As expected of the president of our student union. Even the animalized animals are different from other people. A lot of boys and girls were instantly attracted to Lotus Sunday. Normally speaking, she wouldn't turn into something as legendary as a 9-tailed fox. But Lotus Sun still didn't want Wang Ling to draw too much attention, so she made her animalized form look a little more amazing. When everyone's eyes were focused on her, naturally no one paid attention to Wang Ling anymore. And so, after the morning classes were over, Lotus Sun received another Wang Ling's gratitude candy in her pencil case. It was also a big white rabbit. But the packaging of this gratitude candy was a little different from the previous one. There was an extra line of small text on it. Double the sugar. Thinking of how Wei Ji's chest had instantly turned into an inflatable balloon after eating the gratitude candy the last time, Lotus Sun couldn't help blushing. Wouldn't it be even more ridiculous to eat it? Wei Ji eating it last time was already very ridiculous. Putting this candy away, Lotus Sun took the initiative to use the cooling spell to calm herself down. At lunchtime, Lotus Sun cupped her chin in her hands as she sat at her desk in the student union office. All she could think about was Wang Ling's rabbit ears. She really wanted to touch it and look at it. Lotus Sun called out, wanting to ask Sun Yinger what she thought. In the end, Sun Yinger didn't reply. She realized that the usually noisy Sun Yinger had become especially well-behaved today. Not even the slightest sound could be heard. What's wrong, Yinger? Why aren't you saying anything? Is Chief Shadow persecuting you again? Lotus Sun asked with a smile. Sun Yinger obediently maintained her shadow form, and didn't even dare reveal her human form. She told Lotus Sun mysteriously, "It's not that person's fault. It's much scarier than him." As the master of Shadow Dao, little girl Nguyen was lying on Wang Ling's shoulder. Lotus Sun couldn't see her, but she could indeed see her. All through the morning class, Sun Yinger felt as if a pair of terrifying eyes were watching her from behind, making her hair stand on end. She always felt like her parents were staring at her while she did her homework. She never thought that Wang Nuan would actually split into a shadow and come to school. And from the looks of it, this pair of siblings didn't intend to tell anyone about this until now. Naturally, Sun Yinger didn't have the guts to tell anyone about Wang Nuan's existence. "You're not normal, you're acting weird today," Lotus Sun muttered. Of course, she didn't have the time to think about why Sun Yinger was so well-behaved today. She was too busy thinking about Wang Ling's rabbit ears. "We're already an old married couple. If you want to touch it, go ahead and do it. Just do it," Sun Yinger suggested in a low voice. "What old married couple? You're spouting nonsense again." Lotus Sun's face flushed red once more. It wasn't that she hadn't thought about what would happen if she directly touched it, but she always felt that it would be disrespectful to Wang Ling. She wouldn't be any different from those uneducated girls. Just as Lotus Sun was at a loss, there was a knock on the door of the student union office. "Come in." Lotus Sun's thoughts quickly came back to her senses as she rested her chin on her crossed fingers. As the figure in the number 60 high uniform pushed open the door and entered, Lotus Sun saw someone who was a little flabbergasted. "Classmate Kyuya Ryoko, why are you here?" "I'm not here to thank you," Kyuya Ryoko snorted as she crossed her arms. His words were a little too obvious. Lotus Sun couldn't help laughing. "Then please sit down." Actually, she felt that she was the one who should be thanking him. Lotus Sun actually hadn't helped much with the Kyuya family matter. Li Xian had done most of the work, and she had only provided some bargaining chips for their cooperation. This time, she was going abroad with Wang Ling. This was the first time in her life that she was going out with Wang Ling. Although a lot had happened on the trip, she had also learned a lot about love from Jai Yin. And more importantly, she felt that the distance between her and Wang Ling had grown even closer. It wasn't as unreachable as it used to be. At the very least, Wang Ling now understood her feelings and was grateful to her. He even stuffed a milk candy into her pencil case when he had nothing better to do. Every time she thought of this, Lotus Sun couldn't help curling her lips into a smile. She felt that she was really a very easy person to satisfy. After Kyuya Ryoko came in, Lotus Sun very politely poured her a cup of hot tea. Normal people didn't have the privilege of having Lotus Sun personally make tea. On one hand, it was because Lotus Sun was grateful to her. On the other hand, after learning about Kyuya Ryoko and Audiobook's current progress, she completely knew that this person posed no threat at all. For example, before the first class in the morning, a lot of girls ran over to touch Wang Ling's rabbit ears. Only Kyuya Ryoko lowered her head to read her book, completely unconcerned about this matter. "Classmate Ryoko, what can I do for you?" Lotus Sun put down the hot tea. Kyuya Ryoko took the teacup, thought for a bit, and then looked up at Lotus Sunday. "Is there anything you particularly don't dislike?" "Something particularly not dislike." Lotus Sun felt that she should be asking about something she particularly liked. Sure enough, Sundra and all that. Troublesome and adorable. "Didn't Senior Audiobook tell you anything?" Lotus Sun laughed. "I'm not sure, that's why I wanted to ask you in person." Kyuya Ryoko snorted, her cheeks red. As the eldest daughter of the Kyuya family, she had never humbly gone to someone else's office to ask for their opinion in order to buy a gift. In the end, Kyuya Ryoko had never expected, her first time. She had actually given it to Lotus Sunday. And most importantly, Lotus Sun was the woman whom she had always regarded as an opponent. They were clearly opponents. In the end, after facing each other, they had suddenly united, which was very miraculous. Kyuya Ryoko thought that this might be a mysterious power from the east, or a power that belonged to number 60 high alone. Compared with 9 paths and the current scale of number 60 high school, number 60 high school wasn't big enough. The average level of the students wasn't particularly high, but it felt like a big family. It was as if it could unite everyone together. Wang Ling and Lotus Sun had in fact reflected this very well. Number 60 high school had only sent a delegation of exchange students, but in the end, 9 paths in high school, which had always had a clear hierarchy, had been incorporated. Thus, Kyuya Ryoko had now officially decided to settle down in Huaxiao Nation for a long time. as well as finish her studies at number 60 high school in the future. After hearing this, Lotus-san said repeatedly, "Congratulations, classmate Kyuya. Senior Audra must be very happy to know." "What's there to congratulate?" Kyuya Ryoko pouted. Her words were baffling, but in fact, she couldn't deny Lotus-san's words. Because the reason she had stayed was indeed that she didn't completely like number 60 high school's teaching style. The main reason was that she and Audra were in a relationship. A long-distance relationship was too hard. She hoped that she and Audra could go out normally. "I think it's already very obvious that I don't hate anything. Classmate Ryoko has found happiness now, but look at me, I'm still all alone." Lotus-san sighed and sat down next to Kyuya Ryoko. It was only then that Kyuya Ryoko reacted. "What? Aren't you and classmate Wang Ling together yet?" "Who said I'm with him?" Lotus-san's cheeks instantly turned red. "Classmate Wang Ling is a blockhead." "Oh, sorry. I thought you two had a showdown after going abroad together. I didn't expect it to still be unresolved." Kyuya Ryoko was surprised. It wasn't that she hadn't heard Audra mention the story between Wang Ling and Lotus Sunday. Furthermore, Audra had hinted to her before that she could assist him. Now that the topic was laid bare, Kyuya Ryoko instantly felt like she had a sudden epiphany. "I see." At that moment, Kyuya Ryoko cupped her chin and assumed the posture of a military counselor. "As long as I help you pursue classmate Wang Ling, the debt of gratitude between us can be written off, right?" Lotus-san nodded. She actually hadn't expected this tsundere Kyuya Ryoko to be so roundabout and direct. This guy isn't easy to deal with. Very quickly, based on her years of experience with countless men, Kyuya Ryoko came to a conclusion about the relationship between Lotus-san and Wang Ling. She said, "Although it's easy for a woman to pursue a man, classmate Wang Ling's personality is too abstinent. This kind of pursuit won't necessarily lead to anything." Hearing this, Lotus-san couldn't help sighing. Although it wasn't the first time she had heard someone analyze this matter, she still felt a little tired. "You don't have to be so disappointed." Kyuya Ryoko hurriedly comforted her. "Then what do you want me to do? I can cooperate with you. Of course, let's make things clear first. I'm just returning a favor. It's not because I've changed my opinion of you and want to be on your side. I know." Lotus-san laughed. At that moment, she thought of Wang Ling's drooping rabbit ears again, and her heart itched. "Well, classmate Ryoko, I want to ask you if you have any ideas." At that moment, the girl stretched out her two index fingers and gently touched them together, feeling shy and conflicted. "I want to ask you if there's a more natural way." "What way?" "Just Wang Ling's rabbit ears. I want to touch them." "You want to touch the ears?" Kyuya Ryoko understood. After all, he was a young man in love, and there was nothing special about wanting to touch a rabbit's ears. Can I eat the ears?" "Ah, I heard that these animal organs don't have pain nerves. If it really doesn't work, I'll find someone to cut off the rabbit ears for you. Then I'll make spicy rabbit ears." "How can that be? Rabbits are so cute. How can you eat them?" "I was joking. I didn't expect you to be so serious." Kyuya Ryoko couldn't help laughing. Lotus-san. At first, she had thought that Lotus-san's feelings for Wang Ling were just for fun, but now she realized that she really liked him. If she didn't really like someone, why would she think so much about it? Unlike those uncultured girls who had directly touched Wang Ling's ears in the morning, this was the true expression of liking someone. Everything she said and did wasn't to satisfy her own selfish desires, but to wholeheartedly consider the person she liked. Of course, Kyuya Ryoko actually didn't quite understand what was so good about Wang Ling that Lotus-san could be so infatuated with him. As school was about to end, at Kyuya Ryoko's suggestion, she rode on Lotus-san's shoulder. Both of them were wearing huge cloaks, and it looked like they were walking alone. The hand under the cloak was Lotus-san's hand. Sitting on top, Kyuya Ryoko was wearing a Jason mask, and from a distance, she looked like an unusually tall and burly man. Fully armed, the two women hid themselves very well as they stood guard on the side of the road, waiting for Wang Ling to pass by. Lotus-san didn't think that this kind of disguise would work on Wang Ling. Given the youngster's eyesight, he would definitely be able to tell. that it was the two of them under the cloak. But Kyu Ryoko didn't know Wang Ling's true strength, which was why she felt that this method would work. Really? Classmate Ryoko? Don't worry. Leave the talking to me. When the time comes, you just need to take your hand out from under the cloak. Kyu Ryoko was full of confidence. Under the cloak, Lotus Sun dropped her forehead into her hand and suddenly felt a little regretful. Given the lack of information, she shouldn't have rashly asked Kyu Ryoko to participate in the operation. Coming, watch out. At that moment, Kyu Ryoko coughed softly to warn Lotus Sun that Wang Ling was about to pass by. It was Kyu Ryoko's first time riding on Lotus Sun's shoulder in this position. In fact, Kyu Ryoko was a little regretful that she had suggested this idea. The main thing was that she hadn't considered that after carrying it out, Kyu really wanted to slap herself to death. Because when she had ridden Lotus Sun's shoulder, her calf had happened to rub against the girl's soft part. Damn it! She was clearly 4 years younger than her. Why did she develop so well? Kyu Ryoko's heart was on the verge of collapse. Although Lotus Sun wasn't particularly outrageous at the moment, it was clear that there was a lot of room for growth. She was only 16 years old, and she already had this much potential. If she was a little older, it would be terrible. If she grew up to be a wife, she would probably be even scarier. Hello, classmate. Seeing Wang Ling pass by, Kyu Ryoko used a voice-changing spell to stop him. Wang Ling paused, and together with Wang Nuan he looked at Kyu Ryoko, who was wearing a Jason mask, and Lotus Sun, who was covered by the cloak under Kyu Ryoko. Classmate. We're in the middle of a blessing activity. As long as you let us touch your head, you'll get a snack, Kyu Ryoko, who was wearing a Jason mask, said in a rough voice. At the same time, Lotus Sun very cooperatively took out a golden limited edition crispy noodle snack from under the cloak. This was winter limited edition. It was a sweet ice-flavored crispy noodle snack. The whole crispy noodle snack was sweet. It was different from the pepper-sprinkled versions in the past. Looking at this scene, Wang Ling was dazed. This crispy noodle snack was indeed limited. But the truth was that Wang Ling had already eaten it long ago. His heart was as calm as an ancient well, and he wasn't even that surprised. On his shoulder, Anwan bit her finger, and looked like she wanted to eat it. Do you want to eat it? Wang Ling poked Anwan's soft little face. Little girl Nuan nodded solemnly. And so, without saying anything else, Wang Ling walked over to Kyu Ryoko and Lotus Sun, who were hiding under the cloak. When the youngster's familiar aura drew near, Lotus Sun could clearly feel her own heartbeat. Thump, 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 thump. She had never thought that she would be so nervous. Then, in front of Kyu Ryoko and Lotus Sun, Wang Ling bent down and stuck his head out. With a flushed face, the girl slowly stretched out her hand. With one glance, Wang Ling recognized that it was Lotus Sun's hand. She was trembling nervously, her fingers trembling. At that moment, Wang Ling sighed silently. He took another step forward and voluntarily stuck his head out. Ah! I touched it! Lotus Sun cried out excitedly in her heart. The moment her fingertips touched the rabbit's ear, a huge plume of steam spurted out from under the cloak. Kyu Ryoko jumped in fright. Riding on Lotus Sun's shoulder, she suddenly felt a tremendous propulsion force beneath her. When she regained her senses, the powerful propulsion force generated by the terrifying steam beneath her had already lifted the two of them more than 10 meters off the ground. Chapter 1609. After returning home that night, Wang Ling sorted out the data from today's experiment. The first was the black spirit liquid. For the time being, Wang Ling hadn't detected any other abnormalities or sequelae. Or rather, after putting on the school uniform jacket which had been dripped with the black spirit liquid, he felt that the pressure on the Tao talisman seal on his body had lessened considerably. As for the animal reagent that Wang Ming had developed, until now, the rabbit ears were still on Wang Ling's head. He felt that it had been a little too long, and when he got home, he manually expelled the reagent from his body. The animal reagent was an inhalation reagent, which meant that he just needed to expel the reagent from his body. In a normal situation, Wang Ling could raise his sword fingers and then, like that Duan Yu in martial arts movies, expel the alcohol with his fingertips after getting drunk. He could expel the qi from his body. But because he was at home, Wang Ling was worried that the process of expelling the air could easily cause an explosion. Thus, he chose a very honest method. That was, by drinking water and urinating, he would expel the poison through the circulation in his body. The kidney function of an immortal king was just that powerful. No matter what poison it was, there was nothing that couldn't be solved by peeing. If it didn't work, then he would pee again. Wang Ling thought about the village head of Holy Water Village from back then as he went to the toilet. He didn't know how things were developing over there. Maybe the next time he went over there, the whole village would turn into an animal village, right? Because the black spirit liquid that had been dripped on the school uniform jacket was still in effect for a short period of time. That night was the first night Wang Ling had slept soundly in a while. He just wore his school uniform jacket to sleep. He didn't have to think about anything, and he didn't have to worry that his snoring would blow up the earth. It was a very comfortable feeling. But Wang Ling was also keenly aware that this kind of comfort wouldn't last for too long. That was because Wang Ming currently couldn't prove whether the black spirit liquid extracted from the black stone would make Wang Ling resistant. After all, the Dao Talisman seal that Wang Ling was using now had a much shorter duration and effectiveness than before because of his increasing resistance. The black stone and the black spirit liquid were substances that had a completely new inhibitory effect on Wang Ling. Although Wang Ming had to conduct several experiments, he had to ensure that they were used in a planned manner. This was to prevent Wang Ling from suddenly developing strange antibodies one day. Although Wang Ling was sleeping soundly, Lotus Sun's situation wasn't very good. The main thing was that after touching Wang Ling's rabbit ears, the stimulation had been too great. Even now, she could still feel the soft and warm sensation in her hand. Tonight, she could not bear to wash her hands. Say, classmate Wang Ling clearly knows that the person in the cloak is me, but he didn't avoid me, and even moved his head closer. Doesn't that mean he likes me? Sun Ying'er was silent for a moment. She didn't dare say that it was because his little sister was too hungry that Wang Ling had taken the initiative to stick out his head in exchange for that crispy noodle snack. Of course, the main reason was because of Wang Yuan. She was too afraid that Wang Yuan would get angry and close her access again. If she passed this stage, she would be bullied by Wang Ying again. Although the number of times she used the planet drumming spell had decreased recently, her younger sister's waist couldn't help but ache when she thought about it. This world was really too unfriendly to delicate and beautiful girls. Hey Ying, or why aren't you saying anything? You're acting weird today. No, I'm not. Sun Ying'er didn't dare show her true form. She was usually carefree, but now she looked a little timid. Actually, she was afraid that if she showed her true form, all her expressions would be written on her face. She had never been someone who could hide her expression. Hey, when will we be able to hold hands all the time? Lotus Sun lay on her pillow and pondered that night. She fantasized that one day she would be able to travel alone with Wang Ling without anyone else. Just Wang Ling and herself. The two of them would enjoy the beautiful scenery along the way on a slow transport, and feel the wind on the lakeshore while holding hands. That kind of scene seemed to only exist in shoujo comics, and Lotus Sun yearned for it. But reality and fantasy were very far apart. She was well aware that as long as there was a peanut, she wouldn't let her imagination run wild. The next morning, Wang Ling woke up from a very sound sleep. When he woke up, he saw Loopy Toad standing naked in its human form next to him. And he was actually being hugged by the bed fairy he had enlightened. Wang Ling got up and gave Loopy Toad a surprised look. Although this wasn't the first time he had learned that Loopy Toad was green from head to toe, it still felt a little strange in its human form. Loopy Toad covered its private parts with an exceptionally helpless expression on its face. You can't blame me for this. It explained the series of events that had happened so far to Wang Ling. You can't change back? Wang Ling was extremely astonished when he heard this. Loopy Toad actually remained in its human form and couldn't change back. The point was that Loopy Toad was currently only holding out one hand, which shouldn't have happened. Wang Ling felt that the world seemed a little strange today. He opened the door to the bathroom in the bedroom. Then he was astonished to find that the originally empty bathroom was now full of people. The gremlins who had been enlightened by Loopy Toad were also in human form and couldn't change back. Sink, toothbrush, and cup. Lord Ma looked at Wang Ling with an embarrassed expression on his face. My lord, do you want to go to the bathroom? If you don't mind. Saying this, Lord Ma opened his mouth. Wang Ling was alarmed by this scene, and silently closed the bathroom door. Somehow, he felt that there was something wrong with the way he had opened the door. But even Wang Ling himself wasn't sure what the current situation was. The great enchantment spell was already relatively mature, unlike the single curse which always had bugs, which shouldn't have happened. Wang Ling opened the door to look for Father Wang and Mother Wang. In the end, he was astonished to find two cute maids in maid outfits with qilin horns on their heads standing on either side of Father Wang in the living room. One was called Kato. The other was called Eagle. These were the left and right hands which Wang Ling had enlightened Father Wang in order to deal with the grave god last time. Who would have thought that they would also turn from qilin arms into qilin maids? Ling Ling, did you do this? Father Wang had an indescribably complicated expression on his face. He didn't know whether to be happy or sad. Wang Ling shook his head and immediately denied it. He had become like this when he woke up. Who the hell knew what had happened at that moment? The maid on the left called Kato forked a piece of fruit and held it to Father Wang's mouth. When Father Wang opened his mouth, it directly turned into a huge eagle's beak. Wang Ling thought his eyes were playing tricks on him and reached out to touch it. In the end, he found that Father Wang had really turned into an eagle. Furthermore, it was an eagle without wings. Because his left and right hands had already become maids. I don't feel particularly uncomfortable. At that moment, Father Wang said in all seriousness, I don't have hands, so I can ask for leave from my book friends and say that I can't write anymore. Wang Ling. Saying this, he blushed as he looked at the qilin maids on either side of him. Also, I think this is pretty good. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a howl from behind the sofa. A huge white tiger appeared and immediately bit down on Father Wang's eagle head. Wang Ling sucked in a cold breath. Mother Wang had actually turned into a white tiger. Chapter 16:10. The phenomenon of Earth's cultivators turning into animals had come very suddenly. Wang Ling had been sitting cross-legged at home for a long time, and had on one investigate similar incidents on Earth. Using the power of Shadow Dao to trace the shadows of everyone on Earth, he could easily find out what was going on. And Wang Ling didn't need to do much. He just needed to gently stroke little girl Nwan's little head to get the information. The results were unexpected. Wang Ling and Wang Nwan saw that all cultivators below the nascent soul stage had suffered. Furthermore, everyone had been turned into animals to different degrees. Some had turned into animals or even spirit beasts. Some, like Wang Ling yesterday, had only turned into animal or spirit beast organs. As for the enlightened gremlins in the Wang family's small villa and Loopy Toad's inability to restore themselves after taking human form, this was a little like abnormal feedback before a major earthquake. Could it be that it foretold that the people affected would spread to even higher realms? Wang Ling was a little lost. He could repair and restore the people around him with his magic power, but if it was the cultivators who radiated to the entire Earth, it would actually be risky. Even if there was only a 1 in a billion chance that someone would be able to trace the source of the magic power, Wang Ling didn't want to take the risk. After using magic power to restore Father Wang, Mother Wang, Loopy Toad and the gremlins at home to their original appearances, Father Wang had a particularly regretful expression on his face. Ling Ling, this is where you're wrong. It's not easy for your father to type. It's not easy for him to get 2 maids. After saying this, Father Wang let out a pained scream. The reason was that Mother Wang had ruthlessly pinched his thigh, which was the most tender piece of flesh during the test, and Father Wang had knelt down on the spot in pain. Mother Wang turned on the TV and saw that it was also reporting this incident. The female anchor of the morning news channel had also suffered a phenomenon of animal transformation. Her skin had turned into a leopard print. Breaking news. Currently, cultivators below the nascent soul stage all over the world have suddenly shown signs of animals or spirit beasts. This is called animal transformation incident. Experts say that this incident may become a great turning point for human cultivators on Earth to advance into the future and advance. The overall situation was developing very quickly. Because it was strange, it could only be judged based on experience. Wang Ling felt that there were several possibilities. The first was that Wang Ming's animal chemical reagent had leaked out. Because it was an inhalation type that floated in the air, it was very easy to accidentally injure someone. However, the strange thing was that even if the inhaled animalization reagent leaked out, it was impossible for it to drift so far. On a global scale, how could just a few small canisters in Wang Ming's lab radiate radiation over such a large area? Of the remaining few possibilities, Wang Ling felt that it might be someone with ulterior motives. At the very least, it had to be an almighty at true immortal level, or above, who had activated a global taboo array. Wang Ling called Wang Ming and specially used a video call, mainly to see what kind of animal Wang Ming had become. Unexpectedly, after Wang Ming agreed to the call, the scene in front of them actually looked normal. He wore a thick, custom-made protective suit to block the radiation during the process of studying the black stone. He had specially enchanted the protective suit, so it was extremely safe. "It's probably because of that black stone," said Wang Ming. The mysterious black stone in the lab had the effect of shielding spirit power. If an almighty had set up a large-scale array, the power of the array wouldn't have been able to reach the lab, and Wang Ming had smoothly escaped being turned into an animal. He looked at Wang Ling, a crafty smile on his face under his closed glass helmet. "Why did you think of video calling me today? Or do you want to see what kind of animal I've become?" As he said this, he switched the image to the computer screen in his lab. The image on the screen was of Wang Ling growing those rabbit ears yesterday. During class, someone had actually taken a picture of him lying on his desk with his eyes closed to rest. "Hey, do you know how much I spent on this photo? Also, it took me a lot of effort to restore the mosaics." Wang Ling drew in a deep breath. It looked like Wang Ming had won yesterday's game. It was just a photo, and one that didn't even show Wang Ling's face. Wang Ling felt that it was fine if it had been taken. After all, the man in front of him was still working hard to develop new talismans for him. So it didn't matter if he got some benefits now and then. On the contrary, Wang Ling was more curious. How much had Wang Ming spent on this photo yesterday, and who had sold it to him? In short, Wang Ling had already written down the animalization reagent and the purchase of the photo in his little notebook. Speaking of which, he had a habit of writing down little notebooks. Wang Ling suddenly realized that he had learned it from Lotus Sun. After the call ended, Wang Ling had a general idea of what had happened with the animalization incident. If the reagent in Wang Ming's lab hadn't leaked, then someone else must have been behind it. After breakfast, Wang Ling was about to go out, when Mother Wang suddenly called him. "Ling Ling, you can't go out like this." "Wang Ling?" "Mother Wang. All cultivators below the nascent soul stage have now been turned into animals, and it's likely that the students in your class will be the same. If you acted normally now, wouldn't it be strange instead?" It had to be said that Mother Wang's words did make sense. After thinking about it, Wang Ling could only raise his hand and change the rabbit ears from yesterday back. It was just that the rabbit ears this time weren't made with a reagent. Instead, they were real illusions, which were created using the King's Eyes illusion spell. Like the rabbit ears from yesterday, they had a sense of touch, warmth, and could be touched. After the rabbit ears grew back, Mother Wang couldn't help taking several photos in a row as she shouted, "Ah! My son is too cute. By the way, Ling Ling, do you still want a little brother? It'd be great if you could have a nest of rabbits." As soon as she said this, Father Wang and Wang Ling both sucked in cold breaths. Both father and son felt the radiance of motherhood from Mother Wang. After a moment, Mother Wang smiled with a flushed face. "I'm just kidding. Right now, it's more important to raise Anwan first." A nest of rabbits. At that moment, Father Wang heaved a sigh of relief. His son with long rabbit ears was cute, but a nest of rabbits was a little too outrageous. Who knew if it would be sons or nuclear bombs? That day, when Wang Ling came to class, many people in class had asked for leave. Hirogul wasn't here either. According to Super Chun, it was said that his family's human-shaped parrot, Dopey, had tied him up at home. It's probably over by now. At that moment, Super Chen sighed at Wang Ling in a smoke after the event. Wang Ling. Chapter 1611. What happened between Hirogwa and Dopey actually wasn't a secret in Grade 1, Class 3. Dopey the parrot had the ability to turn into a human because of its bloodline. Wang Ling had used the Great Blood Origin spell to track it down. But for Dopey to turn into a human, it needed to gather the spirit chi of heaven and earth, and under certain conditions, which was a little like a werewolf's reaction to seeing the moon. As for continuing to turn into a human, it was basically impossible. The animalization incident resulted in a polar reversal between cultivators and spirit beasts and animals. When animals and spirit beasts turned into humans, cultivators instead obtained some of the characteristics of animals or spirit beasts, and directly turned into animals. This matter sounded too inconceivable. But there was one thing that was certain now. Hirogwa was definitely feeling good. Because Dopey's human form had always been that of a domineering elder sister. The most important thing was it wasn't any smaller than Jiang Luiying's back then. It was definitely the type that Ryoko Kamiya would be envious of. There weren't many people in class to begin with. The animalization incident this time had directly reduced the number of people in class by more than half. Apart from people like Hirogwa who had been trapped at home by Dopey and couldn't come out, the other people's situations were even more serious. They had directly turned into animals or spirit beasts, and thus couldn't come out. For example, Jiang Yingying. Jiang Yingying's condition was said to be very serious. When she woke up, she had directly turned into a carp. When Marshal Jiang had found out, poor Jiang Yingying had been lying in his bed, and her life had almost been in danger. This made Wang Ling feel uneasy. After all, the monthly exams were coming up. If things didn't return to normal before the monthly exams, it would probably affect his rhythm of keeping his grades down. Wang Ling, I didn't expect you to still have rabbit ears, just like yesterday, Super Chen said as he pinched Wang Ling's ear. When he saw this scene, he began to suspect that the animalization phenomenon had already begun yesterday. Compared with Wang Ling, Super Chen's change actually wasn't that big. In addition to the horns and tail, Super Chen's nose had also changed a little. Sure enough, Wang Ling. I wasn't wrong about you. At that moment, Super Chen spoke again. Wang Ling? Question mark. Super Chen. It's said that this only happens to cultivators below the nascent soul stage. And the lower the realm, the more severe the animalization. I've always suspected that you were hiding some sort of strength. From the looks of it now, I was thinking too much. Wang Ling. On the side, Gu Xuanji, Jin Yuan and the others blushed with shame. Then he quickly tried to smooth things over for Wang Ling. Student Wang Ling is just a mascot. Of course he can't be above the nascent soul stage. Not bad. Look at classmate Wang Ling's rabbit ears, they're so cute. He doesn't look like a senior at all. Have you ever seen any expert who likes to eat crispy noodle snacks? In just a few words, Super Chen was left speechless. It couldn't be helped. The entire Grade 1, Class 3 was now filled with moles sent by the war sect. It was precisely because of this invisible benefit. The animalization incident didn't affect Gu Xuanji, Jin Yuan, Wang Zhan, Lu Qingyi, Fang Xing and the others at number 60 high school. Before coming to school, they had more or less disguised themselves so that they didn't look too strange. As for Lotus Sun, thanks to the protection of the mysterious sea sword Qi, she also managed to escape. But in order to come to school, she still disguised herself. Like yesterday, she had a snow-white and fluffy nine-tailed foxtail behind her. It was just that there were clearly fewer people around her today. The animalization incident had come too suddenly, and for a moment, many people had panicked. For example, Lotus Sun had received dozens of text messages asking for help from Grey Sect disciples today. That was because the animalization was already bothering them. Some disciples had also turned into sea creatures like Jiang Yingying and were trapped at home, unable to move, so they could only ask for help via voice connection. Although the Grey Sect had grown a lot both at home and abroad, it was still the same as before. But Lotus Sun felt that everyone seemed to have misunderstood something. When all was said and done, the Grey Sect was just a literary exchange club. But unity and love were the motto of the Grey Sect. And since the disciples needed help, Lotus Sun naturally couldn't refuse. As the sect leader, she and Sun Yinger had been on the move early in the morning when the animalization incident had begun to ferment, going door to door to find disciples who needed help. As a result, when she came to class in the morning, Lotus Sun looked a little tired, although there was still the double sugar, milk candy in the pencil case from Wang Ling. But even in this situation, she still couldn't bear to eat it. And now, those text messages asking for help were still pouring in on her phone. Wang Ling frowned slightly at this scene. The essence of the gray sect's existence was to provide cover for him. To put it bluntly, its function was the same as Ajua's. It was just that the nature was different. Ajua could make him the scapegoat for dealing with vicious incidents. And the gray sect's existence could provide cover for him when he participated in large-scale competitions with many people in the future. If it was all his own people in a competition, even if Wang Ling's performance was a little in the limelight, as long as they kept quiet, there wouldn't be too much of a splash. Now that the gray sect was growing in scale, as the leader and organizer, Lotus Sun had worked hard and made great contributions. No matter how wooden Wang Ling was, he could still see it. Originally, the milk candy with double the sugar content yesterday was a form of repayment. It was originally meant to relieve her fatigue. Previously, he had also given her an extra sack of gunny, but Wang Ling didn't know that Lotus Sun couldn't bear to eat it at all. Not only couldn't she bear to eat it, she also gave it insurance. Wang Ling was puzzled no matter how he thought about it. There was nothing he could do. In order to relieve the pressure on Lotus Sun's work, Wang Ling decided to resolve the matter at hand as soon as possible. Originally, he hadn't wanted to do it himself. At noon, Wang Ling found an opportunity to go to the school rooftop again. This was originally the scene of the Shadow Stream killers being turned into dregs by the backlash. Since Shadow Stream's invasion of No. 60 High School, it had now become a famous scenic spot in No. 60 High School, and a lot of people usually came to the rooftop to eat together. Wang Ling basically didn't come up. Today he had asked Jin Deng to use his power as the vice headmaster to issue a ban before he dared to go up. At that moment, Wang Ling gazed at the sky. He poured spirit power into his king's eye and unleashed his divine power, shooting an invisible light into the clouds. Very quickly, a torrential downpour fell all over the world. This heavy rain was mixed with the magic power of Wang Ling's great purification spell, which could directly eliminate this anomaly. In the process of the rain spreading down, the magic power would spread along with the flow of the air, taking care of everyone who was affected by the rain. And so it was over. But Wang Ling's expression didn't relax. He had a hunch. It felt like this was just the beginning. At the moment when the purifying rain fell, a figure suddenly appeared in the sky. In a secret underground laboratory in Songhai City, a middle-aged man with disheveled hair was abruptly awakened by a loud explosion. Just now his dashboard had exploded. Finally found it, the middle-aged man said excitedly at that moment. Chapter 16:12. Today was actually the 3rd anniversary of Shoucheng's Grand Unlimited Energy Plan. Everything had started when he had picked up that black meteorite the size of a grain of sand. That day, Shoucheng had named that small meteorite Eternity. To this day, all his efforts had been for the sake of developing an unlimited energy source that would make the entire Earth, and even the greatest scientist in the history of cultivation. After Lotus Sun and Kamiya Ryoko had raised 20 billion yuan for his research and development, Shoucheng had upgraded the equipment in his underground laboratory, and was even more determined to achieve his goal. But now his research and development had hit a bottleneck. The most important part of the Grand Unlimited Energy Plan was to find a container that could provide perpetual motion energy. For this reason, Shoucheng had set his sights on an infinite secret realm. According to ancient records, this mysterious infinite secret realm contained the materials he could use to make a perpetual motion container. But it wasn't easy to open this secret realm. He had spent a huge sum of money to hire a team of 100 soul formation cultivators to create an array for condensing spirit power in the depths of the desert. Unfortunately, the strength of these 100 people was far from enough. Tearing open a crack in the infinite secret realm was more difficult than Shoucheng had imagined. Thus, he had launched the animalization plan for cultivators just a few days ago. According to Shochong's personality tests and calculations, it seemed that the big shots of the cultivation world generally liked to pretend to be ordinary people and live low-key lives in seclusion. If his calculations were correct, once the collective lives of human cultivators were shaken, these big shots whose lives had been disrupted definitely wouldn't sit idly by and do nothing. Of course, this was just Shochong's wishful thinking. Even he hadn't expected the whole plan to go so smoothly. In the laboratory, the assistants whom Shochong had hired began to use their private satellites to locate the spirit power signal just now. The private satellites showed that it was number 60 high school. What a familiar high school name. One of the assistants frowned. It's that legendary high school. The legendary Audiobook. I saw an interview with him a while ago. He said that he's been obsessed with a washboard recently, and everyone is still debating what that means. Another assistant said, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Because of Audiobook's words, the price of washboards on the market had skyrocketed. A lot of cultivators thought that washboards could help with cultivation. So after Audiobook's exclusive interview was broadcast, all the washboards in supermarkets and online shops were snapped up. Basically, everyone was researching how the washboard could be used for cultivation. In the information age of the internet, as long as one had a little bit of fame, their every move would bring about a huge impact. For Wang Ling, Audiobook's public appearance was actually a good thing. After all, they were his tools. Something was not right. It was a disciple. His own disciple was shining brightly outside, and everyone's attention was focused on him. Naturally, it had a certain hidden effect on him. For example, now, when Shochong realized that the energy he was tracking was coming from number 60 high school, he immediately held a short meeting with the assistants in the laboratory. What do you think of this matter? Shochong asked. I think we should categorize the discussion according to the situation. Although the energy source is from number 60 high, we can't rule out the possibility that a big shot was passing by, an assistant said. It's unlikely that they're just passing by. I think they're from number 60 high. Another assistant took out the satellite map he had taken, and when he zoomed in on the image, it happened to show number 60 high school's rooftop. In the end, there were actually traces of mosaics. Furthermore, Shochong's current technology was unable to fully analyze this mosaic, and he didn't know what it originally was. If it's just an almighty passing by, they probably wouldn't do this. In any case, they don't know anyone, so why deliberately mosaic themselves? Don't they usually wear masks or something? For example, an Uchiha swordsman? The assistant said. What the hell is an Uchiha swordsman? Isn't it an Uchiha swordsman? The two assistants discussed it. This kind of behavior was indeed a little like burying one's head in the sand. Shochong rubbed his chin. From a behavioral point of view, if this person was from number 60 high school and didn't want anyone to know who he was, now Shochong had his first suspect. Do you think this person is Audiobook? Shochong asked. I don't think so. Audiobook is at the height of his fame now, and who knows how many eyes are watching him. If it's not him, how can he explain his frequent leapfrogging battles all these years, and solving many major problems that couldn't have been solved at his realm? There's always been a rumor that he has a Shifu. I don't think he has a Shifu. Shochong shook his head and said, I'm afraid that showing off his abilities outside is actually a kind of reverse thinking. It's to make others think that he has a powerful Shifu behind him, and that's why he's so fearless. But what if he's that Shifu? Teacher, are you saying that Audiobook and the Shifu behind the rumors are the same person? I don't think that's a possibility. Thanks to Detective Conan's theatrical version as well as various domestic mystery dramas, Shochong had a strong reasoning ability. In his heart, Shochong was almost certain that this legendary Shifu was a smokescreen that Audiobook had deliberately released. And Audiobook himself was in fact a powerful almighty, a true immortal. And that true venerated sect leader of Battle Sect was even more powerful. But if the above reasoning was completely accurate, then what Shochong had to think about next was how to establish a connection with Audiobook. Has there been any useful information on this Audiobook recently? Shochong asked at that moment. Information. I have a lot of gossip magazines here. The assistant rummaged through a drawer and took out some weekly gossip magazines. Magazines are fine too. Shochong nodded. A lot of the time, the information in gossip magazines wasn't necessarily fake. The key was how to distinguish between truth and falsehood. Shochong cupped his chin in his hand as he read several magazines in a row on his desk. Finally, he discovered an interesting piece of information. It was gossip about a late-night tryst between Audiobook and a mysterious young woman. But unfortunately, this reporter hadn't been able to get a picture of the woman's face. But Shochong frowned. The more he looked at this young woman, the more familiar she seemed. This chest this almost limitless scale. It was as if he had seen it somewhere before. A moment later, Shochong suddenly slapped his head. Ryoko Kumiya? It's her? That was right. Based on these characteristics alone, as well as the sensitivity of an otaku who had been single for many years, Shochong recognized Ryoko Kumiya. This was easy to handle. Shochong couldn't help covering his mouth and smiling. He immediately took out his cell phone, ready to text Ryoko Kumiya to confirm the authenticity of the information. Shochong's contact information for Ryoko Kumiya was Flat Princess. Chapter 1613. After the Kamiya family incident was resolved, all the pressure and uneasiness on Haruko Nakaharu's shoulders were completely lifted. She didn't want to betray Kamiya Yoshiko, but because her only family was being threatened, she was constantly being used by the Kamiya family. When Kamiya Yoshiko discovered the clues, Haruko Nakaharu wanted to kill herself and bid farewell to the world. But for Kamiya Yoshiko, Haruko Nakaharu had a different meaning. She wasn't just her female bodyguard. She was also her friend and family who had grown up with her. After her suicide attempt, Haruko Nakaharu was back on track after a period of adjustment. Although Shochong's phone number was Flatboard Princess, it was actually just a work phone number. Haruko Nakaharu would recheck all work calls to confirm that they weren't scams or blackmail messages before passing them on. It's Master Shochong. He said that the magic treasure that can trace the dead fish-eyed teenager has been developed. He hopes Miss Yoshiko can meet him in private. In Kamiya Yoshiko's villa, Haruko Nakaharu stood respectfully by the luxurious leather sofa. Today was a rare day for Kamiya Yoshiko to go home. After all, she usually lived at Audiobook's place. This time, she mainly packed some clothes and daily necessities. Kamiya Yoshiko had already decided to move in with Audiobook. She was in a good mood when she heard Junko's words. Only then did she remember that she had indeed invested 5 billion in Shochong's research. But for Kamiya Yoshiko, finding that dead fish-eyed teenager didn't seem important anymore. In order to find that dead fish-eyed teenager, she had wanted to prove that Audiobook was a liar. But now it was no longer necessary. That's not important anymore. Junko, go tell Master Shochong that he has worked hard. Kamiya Yoshiko tidied up her long, silky hair and replied after careful thought. Haruko Nakaharu was stunned. Then the 5 billion. Give it to him. People have to pay for their willfulness. After saying that, Kamiya Yoshiko's cheeks glowed slightly. Oh. Haruko Nakaharu was speechless. Was this the legendary Inhuman Tycoon? She didn't want it at all? However, with the abundant wealth of the Jyogong family and the successful cooperation with the Hwagwa Water Curtain Group, although the news had not been announced to the public yet, 5 billion was indeed not a big deal right now. It could be considered as a subsidy for the technological development of human cultivators. In fact, every year, the Jyogong family would allocate a large sum of money to those talented and knowledgeable scientists in the cultivation world to conduct research. Some studies were successful, but most of them were failures. If she just wanted to give back to society, Ryoko Kamiya didn't care about the money at all. At this time, Kusakusa loosened the call and said with an apologetic smile, "So, Master Shochong, did you hear me?" Shochong. That's not it, Miss Junko. That's a research fund of 5 billion. 5 billion. You really don't want it anymore? Springgrass Zhongchuan said. I'm sorry, Master Shochong. This is Mrs. Decision. If you are worried that the Kugong family will go back on their words, Miss Kugong said that we can draft another research termination and donation agreement. She will also state that it is because of her personal reasons, and it will not affect your reputation. The call was cut off. Shochong sat down in his chair, disappointed and frustrated, unable to calm down for a long time. She just said no to the 5 billion. This was something Shochong had never expected. Teacher, this Jiogong family is too generous. What should we do now? After the plan was disrupted, the assistants in the lab all looked at a loss. One of the assistants suddenly thought of something and said, "How about we try exchanging information?" Exchange information? Shochong was puzzled. Isn't eldest Miss Jiogong Ryoko of the Jiogong family at odds with the eldest Miss of Huagua Water Curtain Group? I think we might as well use this piece of gossip to make a deal with eldest Miss Sunday. Then, we can have Miss Sun come forward and give us a chance to meet Mr. Zhua alone. The assistant said, that legend Zhua is her senior to begin with. That's a good idea. Shochong nodded. He felt that what this assistant said made a lot of sense. After all, in order to oppose Ryoko Kamiya, Lotus Sun had given him 15 billion yuan. Shochong heard that even the core members of the group had noticed it at that time, and had even signed a VM. If the magic treasure research suffered a loss, Lotus Sun would give up her inheritance. Compared with Ryoko Kamiya, Lotus Sun actually had no other way out, and she couldn't just give up this money. Shochong felt that this might be an opportunity. So he quickly took out his phone and looked up Lotus Sun's number from his contact list. Name note. Father Lotus Sunday, Master Shochong's magic treasure has already been developed, right? That's great. Lotus Sun's dignified laughter came from the other end of the line. Even through the screen, Shochong could imagine the girl sitting upright on the sofa and drinking tea as she talked to him on the phone. Yes, eldest Miss Sun, my research is very reliable. It can perfectly counter Miss Jiogong's request to develop a magic treasure that can find dead fish eyes. This is a projection magic treasure with a radiation function. It's called the Phantom Projector. Shochong introduced it. You need to wear an earring as a receiver, and through the magic treasure in my hand, you can change your face to whatever you want. You can even customize the face of a celebrity. My research team has already upgraded the core chip, and ordinary transfiguration detection equipment can't detect the face that has been modified by the Phantom Projector. That's pretty good. It sounds very practical. Lotus Sun nodded. In this era of beauty cameras and all kinds of magical makeup techniques, the appearance of such a phantom projector was absolutely a blessing to society as a whole. Lotus Sun's original purpose in having Shochong develop the magic treasure was indeed to target Ryoko Kamiya. But she hadn't expected that the thing Shochong had developed this time would unexpectedly have a selling point. Miss, you flatter me. This is what we should do. Shochong smiled, and then moved on to the next topic. It's like this, Miss Lotus Sun. I've come to you for another matter. What is it? I have some information about eldest Miss Jiogong. I wonder if Miss Lotus Sun would be interested? Of course, in exchange for the information, we have certain conditions. You mean information about Ryoko Kamiya? Yes. Oh, then I'm not interested. Lotus Sun smiled. And Ryoko is a good person. There's basically nothing fancy about the information. Shochong stared blankly. Weren't the two of you at loggerheads? Chapter 1614. Facts had proven that a woman's thinking could not be judged by common sense. Although Shochong was obsessed with his laboratory and all kinds of strange inventions, he was not a woman. However, in order to earn research funding and successfully sell his invention, Shochong's status in the circle of rich women was also there. A long time ago, he was also known as the Lady Killer. If it weren't for his age, he wouldn't have been able to withstand the lethality of the steel wire ball. Shochong felt that he could still fight for another 500 years. Therefore, he became an internet celebrity and created virtual economic value by creating online videos to spread his invention. This was Shochong's last resort. The target of his research fees had changed from middle-aged women to rich young ladies like Ryoko Kamiya and Lotus Sunday. It was true that the young ladies were rich. But in the heart of a young girl in puberty, Shochong found himself unable to figure it out. Of course, it could also be because he was once obsessed with women. That was why his thinking was so rigid. On the contrary, he was unable to understand the thoughts of these young ladies. After ending the call with Lotus-san, Shochung also complained about how strange this matter was. What the hell? They were clearly scheming against each other just a while ago. Wasn't this reconciliation a little too fast? This time, his plan to get in touch with Lotus-san, and thus contact Audjua, had also failed. Shochung felt that he had indeed been a little rash in his actions. Taking action through Lotus-san and Ryoko Kamiya had changed his mind. After contacting both sides, Shochung began to have a vague intuition. He felt that these two ladies might be in the same boat now. If that was the case, it would be very dangerous to get a chance to meet Audjua in exchange for revealing dirt on Ryoko Kamiya. With his strength alone, it was impossible for him to contend against the eldest daughters of two major corporations. Looks like there's only one other way. Shochung sighed silently. The assistants in the laboratory were also shocked and turned pale. Could it be that teacher wants to? We can only take out our trump card. As long as we can establish contact with number 60 high, finding Audjua will only be a matter of minutes. Shochung lit a cigarette and put it in his mouth, then said, also we can kill two birds with one stone by screening, and see if there are any students from number 60 high who are hiding very deeply. December 23rd, Wednesday, one day after the animalization of cultivators. Overall, Wang Ling's study life returned to normal. Although there were still some people who didn't come to school, it didn't matter. It was said that number 60 high had specially sent several teams of psychology teachers to give psychological counseling to these students who had completely turned into animals. Superchin was extremely envious. The director of the psychotherapy room, Yang Hanin, was very beautiful. Old Gua is really lucky. When he heard that teacher Yang was going to visit Hirogua's home, he had been hyping it up in class since the morning self-study session. Hirogua was clearly the most comfortable person in the animal transformation incident. He was playing whip and candle at home with his mature sister, Dan, who had taken human form. He was so happy that he didn't want to go to school. It wasn't because he was traumatized. Superchin crossed his arms in righteous indignation as he spoke loudly in class. Wang Ling wiped at his sweat on the side. If it had been anyone else, he might not have believed it. But coming from Superchin, the result was different. For the first time in this morning's class, Old Pan did not ask to memorize the talisman formula as soon as she entered the room. Instead, she held a stack of notices and asked Little Peanut to help hand them out. National Cultivation College Ranking System Update Notice. The gray notice was stamped with the school's black steel stamp, and the huge title instantly caught everyone's eyes. As you can see, the ranking system of all the cultivation colleges in the country is about to be updated. Standing on the dais, Old Pan said to everyone, there will be tests on 5 dimensions: consciousness, strength, speed, knowledge, and chi and blood, and then a comprehensive evaluation. The results will be published on the list. Everyone will then be able to see your ranking in real time. Wang Ling stared at the notice. He somehow felt that the contents of these dimension tests were a little familiar. After all, he had just recently taken the test in Outer God's Palace. Furthermore, the values were all positive infinity. If number 60 high was going to do this test now, Wang Ling instantly felt that something was wrong. At that moment, someone raised their hand. Teacher, are our rankings on the same list as those of Golden Core University students? The high school rankings and the university rankings are independent, but they can also be used as a reference for future promotions. Students with higher rankings will definitely have an easier time getting promoted, so I hope everyone can pay attention to this. Teacher Pan said, but the system hasn't been updated so soon, and is currently still in the internal testing stage. The Alliance of 10,000 Schools is currently bidding for a suitable testing system for science companies all over the country. It needs to be tested by a number of high schools before it can be rolled out nationwide. So that's how it is. Everyone nodded. Looking at the notice in his hand, Wang Ling finally understood what it meant. It looked like the Alliance of 10,000 Schools had already received submissions from several technology companies. It seemed that number 60 high was going to test out one of the testing systems to see if the entire testing system could work properly. Of course. What Wang Ling was most concerned about wasn't the testing system itself. Instead, it was the person who had developed it. Everyone, have you seen the notice? The system that our school has been assigned is the masterpiece of that very popular online scientist, Master Shoucheng. Although that was what Old Pan said, her heart was actually as calm as an ancient well. If you listen carefully, you might even feel that there was a hint of sarcasm in her words. She had never paid attention to internet celebrities, and had even less interest in Shoucheng. As for the title of master, it was just out of politeness. What no one knew was that Old Pan actually hated Shoucheng a lot. It was not because of Shoucheng's strange inventions. It was because of the inventions that Shoucheng had relied on back then to deceive several of her female friends. Thus, Shoucheng's testing system had been assigned to number 60 high. Thus, Old Pan felt that she had found a way to take revenge. At that moment, she stood on the dais and said indignantly, "Students, I hope everyone will cooperate and take part in the test this time. Who can discover the bug in this system? You can choose not to write from memory later on. Plus a big mysterious gift bag for the teacher in charge. I guarantee it's worth it. I'm sure every student here will want it." Big gift bag? Don't tell me it's homework. Someone couldn't help laughing. "I guarantee on my honor that it's not homework." Teacher Pan smiled. Also, there are a lot of gift certificates in the gift bag. Gift certificates. For example, it's not called a parent certificate. As long as it's not a heinous mistake of principle, you can avoid having your parents come to school with this certificate. For example, a coupon for number 60 high's canteen. With this certificate, you can enjoy a super discount of 198 yuan off the school canteen if you spend 200 yuan. Student Wang Ling, your favorite crispy noodle snacks. You can use this certificate to fight for it. To be honest, Wang Ling hadn't planned to cooperate in finding bugs at first. However, the preferential treatment was simply too much. Chapter 16:15. Looking for bugs wasn't Wang Ling's specialty. Since Shoucheng had the confidence to test the system at number 60 high, there shouldn't be any particular problems with it. At the moment, this system was only being tested internally for number 60 high school. But if they wanted to promote it to the whole country in the future, the system's carrying capacity and endurance were issues that needed to be considered. To put it bluntly, he needed stability. Therefore, as long as the system was unstable, the system would not be stable. In that case, the alliance of 10,000 schools would not consider Shoucheng's system. In other words, he actually didn't need to look for bugs at all. As long as the system reflected the unstable factors, it would be fine. As a weak young man who was usually crowned with the title of mascot. Until now, a lot of people still felt that Wang Ling had been lucky during the senior grade 1 entrance test. That was why there was a bug in the test result. In the end, he was assigned to the elite class. Over the past half a year, they had also represented the elite class and fought for the glory of the school. But it was still hard to dispel some people's dissatisfaction with Wang Ling. Hence, Wang Ling's test results. A lot of people at number 60 high didn't believe it at all. Even if he performed a little better, it didn't seem to be a problem. Moreover, with the help of the Grey Church's disciples, the overall risk was very small. He was right. Wang Ling's current idea wasn't to look for bugs at all. He decided to break Shoucheng's testing system. In any case, this was number 60 high's internal test, and everyone would cover for him, even if he performed better than usual. In the end, the problem would be attributed to the instability of the testing system and good luck. In essence, this was also related to some people's deep-rooted psychological shortcomings. They would rather believe that they were lucky than believe that someone else was strong. To these people, acknowledging a person's excellence, it was really difficult. Teacher Pan didn't like Shoucheng because of his black history of swindling people. No one else knew about this. But Wang Ling was clear in his heart. He didn't mean to eavesdrop on Old Pan's thoughts. It was just that Old Pan had been nagging nonstop in her heart when she was sending out the notice. It seemed like there was indeed a deep hatred between them. Of course, there were people who hated it, and there were also people who supported it. As a current online celebrity, Shoucheng had a lot of fans at number 60 high school. Among the students and teachers, there were fans of his. These people were collectively known as Shochue. Hearing that this testing system was developed by Shochong naturally would not let go of this opportunity. They started to forward the ridiculous inventions that Shochong had published on the internet in the school forum and Tieba. In contrast, Wang Ling appeared especially calm. He was not interested in being an internet celebrity. Moreover, he also felt that Shochong's inventions were very boring. After all, there was a man who was much stronger than Shochong by his side. In fact, even Shochong himself did not expect this. Before Wang Ming had returned from Sun Island, he had already been monitored by Wang Ming. For example, Wang Ling now saw Wang Ming send him a series of messages. Number 60 high. Does he really think he pulled strings to get number 60 high to be his test site? Of course it was specially arranged by my side. Furthermore, he is the mastermind behind the animalization incident. There's no doubt about it. I calculated according to the coordinates, and finally located his underground laboratory. I've also deduced that the reason he did this is probably related to his next experiment. Of course, the reason why I know so much information is not only because of this investigation. Mainly because there are people from the Grey Church in his team. When Wang Ling saw Wang Ming's last message, he was dumbfounded. The scale of his Grey Church, had it already expanded to this extent? It was really a little outrageous. If there were people from the Grey Church around Shochong, furthermore, they knew so much information, then it was extremely likely that they were Shochong's assistants. But Wang Ming's words were reassuring to Wang Ling, because at this point, roping in Shochong was already as easy as pie. Next, he just had to wait for Shochong to fall into the pit he had dug himself. Apart from Wang Ling, Wang Ming also informed Lotus Sun about Wang Ming's follow-up deployment plans for Shochong. The girl was meticulous and considerate, so Wang Ming actually felt more at ease leaving the matter to Lotus Sun to handle. Brother Ming, don't worry. Ling Ling's business is my business. Lotus Sun hung up the phone in the student union office. To avoid the call being monitored, Wang Ming had specially used a landline when he contacted Lotus Sun, and connected her remotely through brainwaves. Given Wang Ming's current ability to radiate brainwaves, it wasn't difficult for him to cover an entire city. Coupled with a helmet that increased the range of his radiation, Wang Ming's brainwaves could reach every corner of the world. But the downside was also very obvious. Wang Ming couldn't maintain it for too long at the moment. Radiating the entire world would take less than 5 minutes before he had to think of a way to cool down his brain. Otherwise, Jiayin would definitely use it to fry steak. Thank you for your hard work, little Rongrong. Wang Ming grinned, and then cut off the brainwaves. The moment Lotus Sun put down the phone, a beautiful figure broke through the door of the student union office. Student Jiang, the president is on a call, you can't go in. The assistant secretary of the student union tried to stop Jiang Yingying, but in the end wasn't able to. It's fine, just let her in. Close the door. Lotus Sun sat upright in the student union president's armchair with a smile on her face. Her natural and unrestrained attitude was in sharp contrast to Jiang Yingying's. After the door to the student union was completely closed, she crossed her fingers and rubbed her chin as she looked at Jiang Yingying. Student Jiang, it's best if you don't get too angry. You just changed back from a carp. If you're emotionally unstable and you change back again, it'll be bad. Jiang Yingying was clearly frightened by Lotus Sunday. She hadn't known that this had anything to do with emotions. After taking a few deep breaths, she clenched her teeth and looked at Lotus Sunday. Don't scare me. I'm not. Lotus Sun spread her hands with an expression that said it was up to her whether she believed it or not. One didn't come to the temple for nothing. In fact, Lotus Sun could more or less guess why Jiang Yingying had come to find her. When all was said and done, she felt that she had underestimated Jiang Yingying a little. She hadn't expected her to be so persistent about Wang Ling. Lotus Sun, I think this is a good opportunity for the school to introduce a testing system, Jiang Yingying said as she looked at Lotus Sun, her hands on the table. What opportunity? Don't play dumb. You clearly know, Jiang Yingying said. Let's have a competition. Test results. If I score higher than you, you'll give me the seat next to Wang Ling. Lotus Sun's expression was as calm as an ancient well, and she felt that Jiang Yingying was a little cute. What if you lose? I have to get something, right? If I lose, I'll. Jiang Yingying thought for a while, and felt that she didn't have anything that Lotus Sun could gamble with. Money. The girl definitely didn't care. Magic treasures. Lotus Sun didn't lack any. She could buy whatever she wanted with a wave of her arm. Thus, Jiang Yingying clenched her teeth. If I lose, I'll go back to my high school and disappear from your sight. Chapter 16:16. In Lotus Sun's view, this bet was actually meaningless. Jiang Yingying had no chance of winning in any way. Although Jiang Yingying's style of doing things looked reckless, she had grown up under Marshal Zhang's influence, so she wouldn't fight without a chance of winning. Thus, when Lotus Sun saw Jiang Yingying charge into her office in a majestic manner and declare that she wanted to bet with her, her first reaction was that Jiang Yingying might have someone backing her up again. Lotus Sun first ruled out Jiang Xiaoqie. Recently, Jiang Xiaoqie had been very well behaved. Moreover, Lotus Sun knew that Grandpa had already warned him not to directly support Jiang Yingying when it came to going against Lotus Sunday. If Jiang Xiaoqie was ruled out, the second most suspicious person was Ryoko Kyuya. But Ryoko was already on the same side, so Lotus Sun ruled her out as well. Then, who was the most likely person to help Jiang Yingying? Lotus Sun felt that it was necessary to investigate Jiang Yingying's whereabouts before the test officially began. She would have asked Jiang Xiaoqie or one of the core members of the battle sect to work with her internal intelligence network to handle this matter. But now the Grey sect was flourishing. Those fanatical Grey church members were basically the control guards of human flesh. There was simply too much information that Lotus Sun could provide. She just needed to use the cult master's order to send a message to the core members group. This would immediately attract the attention of the Grey sect branch's management, and the entire Grey sect would be linked together to gather everyone's power of information to get the information she wanted right away. Of course, Jiang Yingying was also a Grey sect disciple, and one of the earliest ones at that. When Lotus Sun issued the cult master's order, she made sure to remind the branch members to avoid the Grey sect group where Jiang Yingying was. Cult master's order. Cult master issued an order. We need Miss Jiang Yingying's recent whereabouts. Cult master's order. Target. Miss Jiang Yingying's whereabouts for the past week. Anyone who provides a clue will be rewarded with 2,000 yuan. There's no limit to the number. In the student union office, Lotus Sun looked at the balance in her wallet on her phone. Her heart as calm as an ancient well. Based on the 22,000 yuan in her wallet, even if it was deducted every 30 seconds, it would take until next year to finish deducting it. For Wang Ling, she didn't care about worldly possessions like money in the first place. After about an hour, Lotus Sun found what she wanted from the pile of videos in her hands. It was a surveillance report provided by a Grey church follower who worked in a tea house. In the surveillance footage, Jiang Yingying was having a meal with a handsome young man with long hair and a dark purple Taoist robe. This young man's skin was as fair as snow, and he had the temperament of a celebrity. His manners were decent, and he was chatting cheerfully with Jiang Yingying in front of the tea house. Lotus Sun had never seen this person before, but she vaguely felt a sense of déjà vu from his temperament. Such a man should have been the center of attention if he were to be seen in the center of the city, but many of the people around him paid no attention. Did he use a spell similar to Great Shielding to reduce his sense of existence? Lotus Sun was very puzzled by this. If this person took the low-profile route, so why did they allow the surveillance cameras to record him? Was he not afraid that his identity would be investigated? This was the end of the investigation. The person had been captured, and there was a complete high-definition image. But Lotus Sun was still unable to find out who it was. She then used her family's smart AI system to compare it with Huaguo Water Curtain Group's huge database of customer data. In the end, she still found nothing. She was helpless. Lotus Sun sighed as she sat in her seat. She hadn't wanted to ask the seniors of Battle Sect to trouble everyone. But it didn't seem useful to just get a photo of this person. She had to figure out his identity. Seniors, I'm very sorry. I've already done my best to investigate. Although I've obtained a video of the person I want to investigate, I don't know him. I wonder if you can recognize him? Saying this, Lotus Sun sent a screenshot of the surveillance footage to the core members of Battle Sect. Immortal Toya. He looks a little like sect leader Grenade Throwing. Don't tell me he's Senior Immortal himself? Or does Senior Immortal actually have a younger brother? I don't have a younger brother. Don't spread rumors. Grenade Throwing Senior Immortal wiped at his sweat. Strange, I've never seen this person before. He's very unfamiliar. And in what way does he look like me? It stands to reason that all the brothers and sisters here know that I have a wide circle of friends and have a photographic memory. I only need to see everyone's face and name once to remember them clearly. If I've seen this person before, I definitely won't forget him. Lightning Dharmaraja said. Speaking of which, judging from this person's appearance, he should be Xilian Jinren's type, right? Xilian Jinren. From his facial features, he does indeed have the potential to be a handsome guy. Unfortunately, I don't like fat boys. Fatty? This person isn't fat? Lotus Sun was puzzled. The person she saw in the surveillance footage was a very standard good-looking guy. Of course, she still liked Wang Ling more. Isn't he a fatty? He looks just like sect leader Mugu of Half Moon Sect. Xilian Jinren was also very surprised. She rubbed her eyes to make sure she wasn't seeing things. The person in the screenshot was indeed a fatty. It's definitely not a fatty. It's clearly a short-haired, big-breasted beauty. Nonsense, isn't he a fair-skinned pretty boy? I just don't know why he has a pair of beast ears. Isn't the animalization incident over? Could it be a spirit beast in human form? What are you talking about? Why did a half-beast appear? The person in the screenshot is clearly a long-legged little brother, with a very bad hairstyle. Lotus Sun was horrified. It was just a screenshot, but the person everyone saw laughing and chatting with Jiang Yingying was actually different. If everyone sees a different person, then this person is definitely casting a spell. Then Immortal Toya sighed and directly sent a voice message in the group to analyze the situation. Furthermore, this person's realm isn't low. He was actually able to fool so many of our core members, and everyone sees a different person. He made everyone see him differently. This kind of power probably far exceeds the battle prowess of a true immortal. It looks like things are getting interesting. Grenade Throwing Senior Immortal said. Miss Sun, you shouldn't investigate this matter for now. Let us handle it. I'll let you know as soon as we have results. I'll definitely ferret out this mysterious transformer. Senior Grenade Throwing, is this person very powerful? Lotus Sun asked. He's most likely a big shot, so we don't want Miss Sun to get hurt, said Grenade Throwing Senior Immortal. Grenade Throwing Senior Immortal nodded. Although I don't know what this person's purpose is, anyone who can shield themselves like this is definitely an almighty. Look at Brother Ling, isn't that the case? Hearing this, everyone nodded. This was the only thing that everyone agreed on, and no one had any reason to refute it, because it really made sense. Chapter 16-17. The investigation of the Transformers had caused quite a stir among the core members of Battle Sect. There were a lot of spells like Thousand Faces Transfiguration in the cultivation world, and most of the time they were used by rogue cultivators exploring secret realms, or the world as a team. Cultivators who didn't know each other, and it was common for them to assume identities for safety reasons. There had once been a person who used 1,000 faces to explore a secret realm in a team with different people. After this story spread, the term Man of 1,000 Faces became very popular in the cultivation world. But while the Man of 1,000 Faces had 1,000 faces, no matter what he looked like, everyone would see the same face at the same time. Unless there was an even more powerful spell than the 1,000 Faces Transfiguration, it was impossible to produce a situation where everyone saw different things. This was a little out of line for the core members of Battle Sect. Fortunately, there were 2 new 10,000 level consultants among the core members recently. One was Star Traveler Li Xian, who summoned meteorites at the drop of a hat. The other was Zhang Zigui, known as the father of Guevara. These two were the first 10,000 level experts who had been released from the Supreme Corp's winding diagram, and as soon as they came out, they had completed the task Wang Ling had assigned them with flying colors. Now they had officially settled down in Songhai City, and were starting to learn and adapt to the life of a modern cultivator. It was Audiobook who had arranged for them to live in. It was still Wei Ji's staff apartment. After Lu Qingyi and Wang Zhen had moved out, the originally lively atmosphere had instantly become a lot quieter, and Wei Ji would occasionally feel lonely. He wasn't used to living under the same roof as strangers, but he was gradually getting used to it. The main reason was that he had too many pets to keep. He was short of money, and what the battle sect had given was simply too much. It was just a few more people living together in the living area. Not only would he be able to cover his feeding expenses, he would also be very rich. For Wei Ji, this was a very good deal. The only fly in the ointment was that Wei Ji noticed that these two uncles who had just moved in often did strange things, as if they were new to the city. "Senior, this thing is called a refrigerator. You don't have to do it at home when it snows. Look at how cold my gugu chicken is, its comb is all blue," Wei Ji said, sweating. "Okay, sorry Mr. Landlord." Li Xian scratched his head and apologized from the bottom of his heart. It was destined that he and Zhang Zidin still had a long time to learn about the use of electrical appliances in the cultivation world. Wei Ji didn't take it to heart since he had a good attitude in admitting his mistake. It was only after Li Xian and Zhang Zipei moved in that he remembered to ask them about their background. This was because the war sect had given them too much money. As for money, Wei Ji was momentarily blinded by it, and he agreed without even thinking about it. "That odd brother Zhua. Where on earth are these two uncles from?" Wei Ji called at lunchtime. He had just saved the world again. Because there was a heavenly law durian at home, Li Xian and Zhang Zizi were very curious about it. When Wei Ji realized that the two of them were working together to break the durian open with a meteorite, he quickly went forward and explained what the durian was. That was all. The poor spirit of the earth had once again escaped a calamity. "Oh, it's brother Wei Ji. When you say two uncles, do you mean Senior Li Xian and Senior Zhang Zipi?" Audiobook smiled. "Yes. I feel that they're very strange." A few days ago, he had heard the two of them discussing Dao in their room. They had actually been talking about something he didn't understand. Dao can be told, but it's not Dao. Brother Zizi is a little too persistent. Once persistent, let go of it. That's the right way. Existence precedes nature. Let me ask you, what is the nature of Dao? Then how do you define existence? Wei Ji was a little dazed by these few words. Even now he felt a little dizzy just thinking about it. On the other end of the line, Audiobook couldn't help laughing when he heard Wei Ji's mockery. "It's my fault. I forgot to tell you. Senior Li Xian and Senior Zhang Zipi have been in seclusion for a long time, so they're not very familiar with modern cultivation life. I arranged for them to stay with you so that you can take some time to guide them," Audiobook said. "What, did they cause you trouble?" "It's not too much trouble. Don't worry, if the two seniors cause you any losses while they're here, the war sect will compensate you double. We've already paid a lot of rent." Wei Ji dropped his forehead into his hand and smiled bitterly. Actually, he wasn't a fussy person. He just wanted to understand Li Xian and Zhang Zipi better. After all, they were going to live together for a long time. If he could understand their tempers, he could avoid a lot of unnecessary conflicts. On the other end of the line, Audiobook thought for a bit before saying, "It's been hard on you these 2 days, brother Wei Ji. I'll have Loopy Toad visit you in a few days. You probably haven't seen it for a while, right?" These words gave Wei Ji some peace of mind. "Ah, dog too." Wei Ji yelled loudly. It had indeed been a long time since he had seen Loopy Toad. When he had gone to look for it previously, he had heard that it had been in seclusion. Of course, it hadn't been because it was in seclusion that Loopy Toad hadn't come to see Wei Ji in the last few days. It had been promoted to a divine beast long ago. It was just that Mother Wang had recently given birth to Wang Yuan and needed to be taken care of. As a mature dog, Loopy Toad had also started to learn how to wash clothes, cook and help little girl Yuan change diapers. "Then it's a deal, odd brother Zhua." Hearing that Loopy Toad was coming, Wei Ji was instantly happy. He was happier than if he had received his rent payment. After ending the call, he was about to go out to the Spirit Beast Market to buy some beef bone sticks and meat flies to make special dog food for Loopy Toad. This was the food Wei Ji had specially invented for Loopy Toad. He used the bone crusher hand to shatter the bone marrow inside the bone, then inserted a vacuum straw into one side of the beef bone to suck out the bone marrow and mix it with the meat flies. He then crushed it in a juicer, and after mixing it in a ratio of 1:1, he sprinkled a nutritional powder packet over it. Finally, he poured the whole beef bone stick back into it to bake it, and it was done. It was only when Loopy Toad visited that it could enjoy this kind of royal treatment. As one of Loopy Toad's few friends in the human world, Wei Ji was indeed a good friend. While he was changing his shoes at the door, Wei Ji suddenly saw Zhang Zizi come over. "Mr. Landlord, if it's possible, can you take this old man with you? Where's Senior Li Xian? He was going to go out with me, but just got a call from sect leader Grenade Throwing, so he's busy." "That's fine. Senior, come with me. If you run into anything you don't understand, don't be in a hurry to help," said Wei Ji. "I understand," Zhang Zizi replied confidently with a smile. The two of them took a bus from the staff apartment to the Spirit Beast Market. Everything was very harmonious on the bus. Wei Ji breathed a slight sigh of relief, but when he got off the bus, he suddenly realized that something wasn't right. This was because he found that Zhang Zistiel was holding a sack full of coins in his hand. "Senior, you." "Sorry, I couldn't help myself." Zhang Zizi rubbed the back of his head in embarrassment. "Say, how are we going to return this sack?" You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.